I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Canon. We've been Disney fans our entire lives. And now, as childless adults, we're undertaking a journey through the media that shaped our lives.
Trying to find out if what made them special is still there.
We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
We've made it. We've made it to the finish line. The final Disney Renaissance movie. We made it. We did it.
Woohoo!
I think, yeah, right here, we've done it. We are doing Tarzan, 1999. Would have been our senior year of high school.
Yeah, depending on, let's see, released in June, so we were just about to go into our senior year of high school.
Yeah, so we were past the kiddie age. We were way past the recommended viewing age for this movie.
The interesting thing is that the Disney Renaissance really did span our childhoods, like, exactly.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it started when we were, 8?
Yeah.
So, like, 8 to almost 18?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much your entire formative years there.
Yeah, these movies formed us, it was there from all our big moments in our lives up to that point, all our big moments in our childhood, and it's just that, and that's why these movies are so important and so well loved by our generation, the slightly older millennial generation.
Yeah, the ancient millennials.
The ancient millennials, the pushing 40 millennials.
Yeah,
that's the thing that a lot of people don't want to say. Yeah, the oldest millennial is pushing 40. We're not kids in high school. We were kids in high school when this movie came out in 99.
Yeah. This was, just kind of personally, this was kind of the first Disney movie that I think we really went to see more because my father wanted to see it than because I wanted to see it. I'm not saying that I'm not sure I ever hit that phase that some people in our generation hit where you were like too cool for Disney for a little while. Like, I don't think I ever had that phase. I was never too cool for anything. Like if I liked the thing,
cool
I was just, I'm still like the least cool person, but I never had that, like, that's kid stuff kind of thing that some teens get.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I want all of the stuffed animals. I will sing all the Disney songs. I will watch all the cartoons. Like, I never got that, like, too cool for school kind of thing. But my father is a massive Tarzan fan. He loves Tarzan as a story and as movies. He loves the Johnny Weissmuller movies. He loves, I think his favorite, and probably my favorite too, is Greystoke with Christopher Lambert playing Tarzan. Great movie, highly underrated. If you've never seen it, go watch Greystoke. But he is a huge Tarzan fan. So he really wanted to see how Disney did Tarzan. Tarzan as a story doesn't interest me as much as it interests him. So this was more like it's a Disney movie and I'll go see it. But I wasn't like super excited for this one. But my dad was a bit excited for this one. So it was kind of interesting to have that little reversal, because I think up until that point I was like, no, it's a new Disney film, we have to go see it. And this one he was like, no, it's a Tarzan film, I don't care if it's Disney, we're going to see it. So
yeah, I mean, Tarzan as a character has been, we have the original book in 1880 something?
Yeah, 1912.
1912, okay, so 1912, and there's been movies since the 20s with the character.
Yeah, I mean, very quickly after publication, they started filming this.
There were originally 12 Tarzan movies starring the same actor.
Yeah, there was a bit of silent film, but the most famous one that you think of when you think of Tarzan in old black and white movies, you're thinking of Johnny Weissmuller.
Yes.
Johnny Weissmuller absolutely made his career playing Tarzan. He is also the one that created the Tarzan yell.
Yep.
The Tarzan yell was in the books, but it was like, you know, the victory call of the great ape or something was just how it was written. The interesting thing about that is that the books just described it as like a victory cry. And in preparation for this episode, I went through and watched basically the evolution of the Tarzan yell in the early movies. And so from the moment they could put sound on top of movies, they had an actor. It was mostly a silent film, but they would put like occasional little bits of dialogue in it. And the first actor to do it, they were like, you know, and then Tarzan released his mighty triumph call, and the actor just went like, "Oh!" It was really pathetic and really weird, and it kind of sounded like he stepped on a Lego. Like it was like. It was very weird. I felt sorry for the poor actor because I know he was trying to sound like manly ape man, and it did not work. And then it kind of got worse from there through the next few actors. There were some radio actors and stuff, and all of them were just some form of like, grr, you know, it just like, it was really pathetic. And then there's some dispute on Johnny Weissmuller and the Tarzan yell, but his co-star in those movies that played Jane, she had given some interviews where she has confirmed that that was Johnny Weissmuller. Like, he created that. And Johnny Weissmuller himself says that he took it from yodeling in his childhood, because apparently that was like part of his childhood. He grew up somewhere where people yodeled. And so the fact that it kind of oscillates back and forth between low and high tones, when you think of that original, you know, you know, that kind of thing, is more a yodel thing. That rapid movement.
I can see where it comes from. I can hear that.
Yeah.
And of course we get a lot. There was a lot of parodies for Tarzan. The most well known being George the Jungle.
George of the jungle, strong as he can be. Watch out for that tree.
Yeah, George of the Jungle, which I
made a movie out of.
Yeah, I loved that movie. I mean, you know,
and it came out in '97, so people would have known. Our people our age would have known George of the Jungle before they knew Tarzan. They would know the parody before the original.
Yeah, unless you grew up with a father who was really into Tarzan. Yeah. I mean, I knew who Johnny Weissmuller was from the time I was like a wee little kid. So the George of the Jungle was absolutely like, you know, like, oh, it's that guy trying to be Johnny Weissmuller's Tarzan, you know. But I was the weird kid. I guess. Yeah, you're correct though that for most people in our generation, I think they would have probably had George of the Jungle in their brain before Tarzan. I think a lot of kids knew that George of the Jungle was trying to be Tarzan, because Tarzan is just one of those things that you know about and you're never sure how you learned it.
Yeah, it's Tarzan being a big nickname to anyone doing any kind of acrobatics involved. Like, you see a kid climbing the jungle gym and people call him Tarzan for climbing, hanging upside down, and he would yell.
It's just so part of the culture that even if you don't know where you learned it, you just kind of know it, especially in America. I don't really know how it translates outside of America, but Tarzan, despite being set in Africa and having a character who was originally from England, is a super American story.
Yep.
I mean, just academically, it's kind of really rooted in America at the turn of the century there. But it's interesting how much of this has kind of seeped into American culture. And you were talking about like famous kind of parodies and stuff. I mean, Carol Burnett did the Tarzan yell at the end of almost every episode of the Carol Burnett show.
Me. Okay.
And
and she does it beautifully. I mean,
and for if you want to go into a lot of people we know do comedy music, and one of the most famous comedy musician would be Ray Stevens, and his song "Get Tarzan."
He's all you can stand. Give him a hand. Get Tarzan.
Yep.
Straight up parodies Tarzan.
Absolutely. And it's so weird kind of where you find parodies of Tarzan. You know, it's just so strange because you'll be watching something and it'll have nothing to do with Tarzan, and then like somebody grabs a rope and does the Tarzan yell, and I mean, it's in Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's Tarzan yells in Star Wars. In the forest battle on Endor, it appears in the prequels when we go to Kashyyyk. Like, there's, you know, some Wookiee or Ewok or something swinging on a vine, and in the back you can hear that Tarzan yell. And it's so weird because it comes at you at the strangest of moments. So Disney was drawing on absolutely a huge legacy, and they hit it at kind of an interesting time because they hit it at a time where Tarzan, I don't think Tarzan has ever been out of the public eye necessarily, but the most previous Tarzan movie that I know of before this one was, like I said, Greystoke, and that was in the early 80s, I think.
And this movie actually borrows a lot from Greystoke, including Tarzan's ability to mimic pretty much anything.
Yeah, the mimicry is great. I don't really remember that being a thing in the book, but maybe it is. I'm not as up on the book.
I think for Greystoke and even for this movie, it's to explain how Tarzan is able to learn human speech as fast as he is.
Yeah. The interesting thing is in the book, he taught himself how to read. He found his parents' cabin when he was very young and taught himself to read from their books, but he couldn't speak English because he had never heard it spoken. He had only seen the written form. So he was apparently very highly literate before meeting other humans, or specifically before meeting other white European humans. Let's make that clear.
Those early
there
movies.
are a lot of Africans in the books.
And not all of them were portrayed in the highest of light.
I would say none of them probably were portrayed in anything we would call a decent light.
Casual racism.
It was not very casual. Burroughs is an interesting writer, and you can blame it on Man of His Time if you want, but even his contemporaries were like, yeah, that dude kind of had some racism in him, you know. It's like, so you know, be warned if you want to go delve into the books. There might be some troubling things in there you are not ready for. Like we said, 1912 by a dude who even his contemporaries thought might have been a little racist. So yeah.
And so let's get to more of this movie, in that this movie changed the formula. A lot of people at this point, even as first with Hercules and Pocahontas, a lot of the critics, even some of the movie-going public, were kind of getting tired of the Disney formula at this point, the Renaissance formula, the formula that had made them so successful up to this point, that Broadway musical formula. And they decided to change it up a bit. In this movie, very few, two characters sing, but there's a lot of music, most of them narration, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, this is Montage the movie. It's very much like the movie stops at several points for music videos that kind of describe the visuals but don't really move the plot forward.
Yeah, and they bring in Phil Collins to do the music for this movie.
Hey, quick question for you, Tuesday.
Mhm.
Who is the last person who should be writing music for a Disney movie? Because I think the answer is Phil Collins.
Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, member of Genesis. I don't
No,
know why. I don't know why you
love
would get
Phil Collins. Like Phil Collins on his own, being Phil Collins, being a member of Genesis back in the day. I mean, I was a huge fan of Genesis when I was a kid. Being a solo act later, huge fan of that. I had his albums,
I
but
was more a fan of the Peter Gabriel area of Genesis myself.
I like me some Peter Gabriel. I mean, I got love for them both. They're very different things to me, but I love them both. But like, it doesn't work with a Disney movie, and this movie in particular.
I mean, why would you get Phil Collins to do this movie? I mean, he can't dance, he can't talk. All about him is the way that he walks, and I had to get that reference in there.
Yeah, you did, and I applaud you for going that far for a joke. But no, but this, oh man, even during the rewatch, I was watching this and I was like, this is the sound hell makes. Like,
I'm gonna make a big this movie for a very long time was my least favorite of the Renaissance, mostly because of the music. Again, like I said, I like Phil Collins, but this music, in one way or another, doesn't fit this kind of movie. At least to me.
Yeah,
and more of it is also, that was point one. Point two for me was that it was not a musical. It had stepped away from the winning formula, in my opinion. And I liked the other movies more because they were popular. They had the popular music in there. You can have at least one song in each of these movies up to this point where you leave the theater singing that song or at least humming it.
Yeah, here's the interesting thing. Since we're talking about the music, the song "You'll Be in My Heart" won an Oscar.
Oh, we have to go there.
We have to go there, and I'm going there hardcore. Okay,
we mentioned this. We mentioned this. We mentioned this last week. Last week, so we have to mention this now.
Yeah, I am still angry about this 20 years later. Okay. The other song that it was competing, I mean, there were like 5. I don't care about those. The song that should have won was Blame Canada from South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
And they went as far as to get Robin Williams. They went as far to get Robin Williams to perform Blame Canada at the Oscars.
Yes, and that performance is one of the greatest Oscar performances of all time. I mean, there are some really good, I would say, Aladdin's performance where they get, Lea Salonga coming in on the flying carpet and stuff. I mean, there's some good, and especially from Disney, there's some good Oscar, song performances. I would put South Park's performance over pretty much anything else.
Talk about a sore loser afterwards, though.
Yeah, there's a thing, though, that I can kind of feel them on that. Like, you can kind of suggest that maybe they shouldn't have done it. But for those who don't remember, South Park films very quickly. One
episode in a week. Yep.
Yeah, they come up with a story, write it, animate it, voice it, and put it out within the span of roughly a week. And it was, I think the production time was a little longer then because the technology hadn't quite caught up with them, but it was still the fastest animated show on television. So basically, like within 2 weeks or so of them losing the Oscar, they had an entire episode where the kids of South Park get on drug of some sort.
Ritalin, because they were all ADHD. Every kid was diagnosed with ADHD, and they all got Ritalin.
Yeah. Super problematic storyline. I'm just gonna say, thank you for using one of my diagnoses as your punchline. Not fan of that.
But
But
it was the episode that gave us Timmy!
yeah. So, but they bring in Phil Collins, parody as a character. And it famously ends with the crowd turning on him and putting his new Oscar somewhere the sun doesn't shine. So
He's carrying the Oscar throughout the entire episode.
yeah, he is carrying the Oscar throughout the entire episode. And the thing is that while I may disagree with that in retrospect, 1999 me, or I guess early 2000 me, because it would have been after the Oscars, but yeah, me at the time was like, yeah, this is appropriate because that was nonsense. I can at this very moment, I won't, but I could verbatim sing Blame Canada for You. All of the little interstitial stuff, all of the random character jokes, every bit of that thing. I have watched Tarzan within the last 24 hours, and I cannot tell you more than 5 words of You'll Be in My Heart. And I think those were the 5 words. Like, okay. It's like, you'll be in my heart, something, something more. Like, that's all I can remember of that song, and that's 24 hours ago. South Park, which I haven't seen in years, I can still tell you every line of that film. So,
Me too. I saw South Park in the theaters. I did not see Tarzan in the theater because I was just not interested in it. And
oh, wow.
I waited till it was on cable. And even then, it was like, I'll see it just to see it. And like, it's all right. It's like, again, it was my least favorite of the Renaissance. And I'll give you my full opinion when we get to the end of this review.
Yeah, this was the first Disney movie I think that most of our generation saw it as an obligation, rather than an event.
And even at this point, interest in Disney Disney brand animation was kind of going away, and Pixar was kind of the new hotness at that time. And the next year, DreamWorks would bring out Shrek, and there went that.
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of wonder if it was because of the big split that happened at Disney right before this.
Yep, Katzenberg left. Forgetting his name, because the president of the studio that died in the plane crash.
Oh, I don't remember either. My apologies. But yeah, I mean, Katzenberg leaving. I don't know how you were at this age, but me at roughly this age, I was already like, I was reading every Hollywood rag I could get my hands on, like not just like tabloid stuff, but I'm talking about like industry stuff.
Frank Wells, that's his name.
Yeah. And when they were like, oh, Katzenberg's left Disney, like that rocked my world at the time.
Yeah, Katzenberg comes on during production of Black Cauldron, and through the production of Oliver and Company brings the idea of bringing the musical back with Little Mermaid, and he is one of the reasons we got the Disney Renaissance the way we did.
Yeah, and he's also, even outside of the Renaissance, I mean, he is kind of the reason that we have the partnership with Pixar.
Mm-hmm.
He's also the reason why how Disney acquired Miramax, which was one of its first big acquisitions that kind of led to where we are now with the merger that won't stop. So, I mean, you can love him or hate him for that, but it is a huge thing he did for Disney.
Yeah, but we gotta go through that whole story of why Katzenberg left. So Frank Wells, Katzenberg, Eisner, they all come in together. Wells is put at the head of the film studio. Katzenberg is the head of the animation studio. And pretty much as soon as like Beauty and the Beast becomes the Oscar nominee, Katzenberg is campaigning to become head of the studio. And justifiably, because again, under his supervision, that Beauty and the Beast becomes his Oscar contender. What do you do with Wells?
And remember, if you didn't listen to our Beauty and the Beast, I mean, that was unheard of. An animated film up for Best Picture.
Exactly. So he had justification for his campaign, but what do you do with Frank Wells? Fortunately, Frank Wells dies in a plane crash. So there's a void there, and in a bit of a dick move before the body's even buried, Katzenberg is still campaigning for that position. And it was made the decision, Eisner, Roy E. Disney have the meeting, and they decided not to give Katzenberg the position, and he leaves. He quits. Well, he is forced to resign. He doesn't quit. And he ends up suing Disney, getting a large payout for it. And he goes on with Spielberg, and he forms DreamWorks. And there we are. This is where we're at this point in history.
Yeah, and, a lot can be said about Katzenberg, and I'm certainly not the first one to say it. People who've worked with him do seem to think that he's got a bit of an ego problem, that
a lot of people might be saying that he overworked a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, there's some not great stuff. I'm not saying, like, that I've heard anything, like, super criminal or anything, but it's just, like, little bit of boss you might not want to work for in some ways. But sometimes you have to acknowledge that while you may not fully agree with a person's methods,
the results
the results. I mean, he left Disney, and Disney very quickly started a tailspin. Ha ha ha. Joke.
We'll get to that.
but then he goes to DreamWorks, and DreamWorks suddenly becomes the force in animation.
Yep.
Like almost overnight. So there's something there. Okay, I'm not necessarily saying that he's a great person to work for or whatever. I don't know. I don't know the man. I'm only saying what I've heard. Some people say amazing things about him. Some people are not a fan. But you can look at the numbers on this thing and notice, like, wait a minute. He left Disney when? And what was in production at that time?
Pocahontas.
And how did those movies do?
Yeah.
I mean... And then it's like, and then the first thing DreamWorks puts out is a decent hit. And then the second thing DreamWorks puts out is one of those cult classics that our generation will not shut up about. And then you get Shrek, and it's just like the entire world is gone, And he stole Mulan's big comedy thing, did basically the exact same thing, but better, so that last week I said, I can only hear Donkey from Shrek when I watch Mulan,
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you got to give the man some credit that he's able to do that. But
there was definitely some bad blood there. Going to Shrek, Lord Farquaad was pretty much a caricature of Michael Eisner.
Yeah, and I don't have many good things to say about Michael Eisner. Like, let's just put that out there. Me will never win the award for Michael Eisner fangirl. Okay,
and maybe or not, whether you want to say it, he might. Considering the first DreamWorks animated movie was Ants and A Bug's Life had come out, there had to been some talk. Katzenberg might have known something.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that there's not blame to spread around there. Okay, but. I don't think anybody on any side really handled this well. But yeah. there's something definitely there, and I think that while I'm not going to lay the eventual end of the Renaissance and the kind of short dark period before it came back as entirely the fault of them losing Katzenberg, I'm going to say that maybe that started a snowball, you
They
know?
were definitely directionless for a while, and they just what would eventually be referred to as the experimental era would come from that. And yeah, I mean, they without Katzenberg, people were just doing whatever, and some of it worked. You know, you get your Meet the Robinsons and Lilo and Stitch, and some of it doesn't work, and you get Chicken Little and Home on the Range.
Yeah. I mean, it really becomes, I don't know, it becomes like kind of a strange roulette wheel of, is this going to be good or is this going to be bad? And at the start of the Renaissance, we didn't think there would ever be bad again.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as kids, we were like, all Disney movies are great and they're going to be great until, like, oh,
Till they weren't.
Hercules. You know, it's like,
They were
I mean,
great
even,
until they weren't.
yeah, even Pocahontas, we were still kind of holding in there, but I think Hercules just kind of killed it for most of our generation. And by the time you get to Tarzan, we're already viewing the Renaissance as an obligation rather than an enjoyment.
And I think it's also, well, we'll get to this when we do something later, but we've already done this for like half an hour. I think it's time we really do get into this movie.
Yeah.
I think we really should.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's
We have to.
we kind of have to. We'll try to get through this as mercifully as possible.
Sorry,
movie-
folks, it's the nature of the show.
Yeah.
Hang in with us. We'll get back to the fun stuff eventually.
So we start with the classic blue logo, and the logo's not even done yet, and we already are in the movie. Transition straight into the African jungle, which is probably why this. Yeah,
this is
the
weird one where the music isn't the reason that we keep the logo. It's because they've worked the logo into the animation. The music doesn't start until after the logo fades, really, but they've overlaid it into the visual so much that that's why we're still getting the original logo. And we should mention that this is the first one that we have not been able to watch on Disney Plus.
No, yes. This was actually, it won't be on Disney Plus until sometime in March or April, but it is on Netflix. So we had to jump from Disney Plus to Netflix to watch this film.
Yeah.
So if you have Netflix, you can still watch this for another month or two.
Yeah, and then it will be on Disney Plus, depending on if you're listening to us as we release or later on.
Yeah. So anyway, we have our transition to the African jungle and our first song, Two Worlds, which pretty much is our narration here. So we see a ship on fire, a man, woman, and a baby escaping, eventually making it to shore, and building a treehouse out of the ship's wreckage. And intercut with this whole thing is two gorillas. Kerchak, voiced by Lance Herkenstein. I am not pronouncing that right. I know I'm not.
You are not. It's Lance Henriksen. Yeah.
Henriksen. Thank you. And the leader of the gorilla tribe and his mate Kala, Glenn Close. And this is kind of funny because she had just done 101 Dalmatians not too long before this. Yeah,
Glenn Close has got some serious Disney cred from this time.
Yeah. So. And they welcome their own baby gorilla into the world. But both families' lives are changed forever one night thanks to a leopard named Sabor, who doesn't have a voice, who eats the baby gorilla and kills the human parents in the same night. Yeah. That's a very active leopard right there.
Before we get any further into this scene, I'm going to say that I overall am not a fan of the animation style of this film, but I am going to give the animators some credit. The opening scene where Tarzan and his parents are fleeing the boat as it's on fire. The fire reflections dancing in the water around them are probably the best point of animation in this entire film. They are gorgeous, they are flawless, they are incredibly lifelike, and then it kind of goes downhill from there. But I want to give them props for that, because that one moment is beautiful. And also, before we go any further, I am going to note that this is a change from the books, because in the books, his parents were marooned in Africa, and after they had been there and established themselves, then Tarzan was born. Tarzan was actually born in the jungle. He wasn't born and then his parents ended up dying. But Disney is not alone in changing that bit of the story and having him be an infant when the ship crashed and his parents got lost and all that.
So yeah, and I'll say this: this is more cartoony than the other Disney Renaissance movies. A lot of them try to have a little bit more of realism in terms of how the characters look and move. This is more. Again, this feels more like This is more the most cartoony of the Renaissance films up to this point.
Yes, some very exaggerated character designs. Even the things like the leopard looks really cartoony. That really stuck out at me, because you're watching this after Lion King, so you know they can do some realistic cat movements and fur effects and all that kind of stuff. And then this one, I don't know, it looked like it was out of the 60s or something. It was very strange.
So let's move on. The next day, as the pack of gorillas are moving out, after their nest was attacked by a leopard, Kala hears crying, enters the very treehouse that we were talking about, and finds the human baby. And Sabor, who apparently is still feeding on the two humans he killed the night before.
Who, fortunately, we do not see. The bloodiest this gets is that Kala does spot bloody paw prints and knows Sabor is there. That's it. Yeah.
That's all. And for a Disney movie, that's really all they can show in a Disney animated movie. And the two animals have a fight over the baby. A fight that Kala doesn't necessarily win, but she gets away from by jumping into the very lifeboat that the humans were escaped in. And Sabor gets tied up in the rope that was attached to the lifeboat. The scene itself is pretty good, and they do have a bit of comedy because there is a baby there. I kind of liked it. I thought it was okay. Especially, again, no dialogue at all up to this point except for Phil Collins' singing.
Yeah, you could turn the music off. Like, you could mute it, and you would still get the entire story.
Yeah.
You know, you could absolutely have no sound, no captions, nothing to do this, and you would still, it's a silent movie at this point that Phil Collins is just kind of jabbering over.
So yeah, I mean, that whole scene with Sabor and Kala's little fight, that was actually pretty well animated, at least to me. I actually had a chuckle when Kala finds baby Tarzan, and they kind of look at each other and they go, huh?
Yeah. There's some cute moments. I always wonder, and this is just because neither of us are parents, but why does all baby humor have to revolve around how disgusting babies are? Like, I don't quite get this. Parents, you will have to explain it to me, but, everyone with kids just constantly talks about how disgusting their babies are, and diaper things, and spit up things, and then they're like, so when are you going to have kids? And I'm like, well, never now. That sounds awful. You have just described my personal hell. I don't know. So it was another one of those things that I'm like, I'm sure some parent found this hilarious. I just find it off-putting.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move on. Kala returns to the pack with the baby and is welcomed back. Among the gorillas is a young gorilla named Turk, voiced by Rosie O'Donnell, who does both the young and adult Turk, which I didn't know about till after I saw this movie, because I'm thinking, oh yeah, whatever kid they got to voice young Turk really got down Rosie O'Donnell's speech patterns and her her New York accent, like, oh, that was actually Rosie O'Donnell doing it.
Yeah, and bravo to her, because it doesn't immediately sound like Rosie O'Donnell. It does sound kind of like a kid doing a Rosie O'Donnell impression.
And Rosie O'Donnell was huge at this point. She had her own talk show and everything.
Which I watched
As did I.
religiously. Yeah, I mean, that was the best thing on TV at the time.
This
I mean,
was
when she
during-
was at her height, yeah.
This was peak Queen of Nice era of Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, that changed.
That's why I said Queen of Nice. And
But you know, and I don't really blame her for it. I still kind of like her enough. But yeah, this was also had not come out yet, Rosie O'Donnell.
yeah, she was still in the closet.
Yeah, and some of those things are super cringy to go back and watch now,
Yeah.
because she was trying so hard to pretend that she had interest in men, and
Especially Tom Cruise.
yeah, the Tom Cruise thing got really weird. Like, I do wonder if there was some, like, Scientology kickback or something there for a while. I don't know what that was. But even at the time, I started to go, like, this is getting a little strange. If you don't know what we're talking about, I'm sure YouTube can give you Rosie O'Donnell, Tom Cruise context there. But
It was a running gag
very,
on her talk show. That's
yeah,
really
it was very
bad.
weird at the time, and it's even weirder in retrospect. So, Hollywood's lavender marriage that never was, I guess. but yeah, overall, I mean, everybody knows my opinion now on stunt casting, but overall, I don't hate this one. I think that she perfectly blends into the movie, and her acting, both as little kid Turk and as more adult Turk, it's acting. You know, she was an actor as well, and quite a good one. I mean, her bit in League of Their Own is just unsurpassed, I think. But this is just acting. She's one of the few that I'm going to give her credit that this was not gimmicky for her. She just viewed it as another acting job, and I think it comes out less grating and irritating than the other ones to me, because she wasn't. It was like, yes, you're there for the comic relief, but she wasn't trying to, like, pull people out of the movie like some of the other ones were.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Turk was actually male in the books. And they actually made Turk female for the movie because of Rosie O'Donnell. Because Rosie O'Donnell auditioned for the role, they loved her for it, and they said, you know what? We can make Turk a girl.
Yeah.
Also up for this role was Chris Rock.
I'm glad they went the way they went. I mean, I really don't have anything against Chris Rock, don't get me wrong, but I do think that Rosie O'Donnell fits the style of this movie a little better.
It would have probably been another Eddie Murphy situation where it's, you can't, it's just Chris Rock as Chris Rock rather than playing a character.
Yeah.
So, Kala takes the baby in and says she's going to raise this baby as her own, much to Kerchak's objections. You know, he doesn't look like us. He's not one of us. Why are you raising this baby? We lost one. This won't replace the one we lost, and all that. And she names the baby Tarzan. We're never going to reason why Tarzan, but just Tarzan. Okay.
There is a reason in the books.
Okay.
The apes have their own language in the books.
Mhm.
It's what's it called, like Mangili or something like that, I think is the name he gave to the ape language. And in there, Tarzan means like white skinned or white haired or something like that. It's basically a reference to the fact that he's a hairless ape with white skin. And this is the only white skinned human these apes have ever seen, so they just call him white skin or something. It might not be white skin, but it's white, basically. Mm. So that's why he has the name of the. I'm glad they didn't go into that, because there's all kinds of just nonsense that comes along with that in the book. That, like, thank you for just moving on and being like, her name is Turkina. His mom's name is Kala. They all just have a name. Here's Tarzan. It's like,
The closest
okay.
we get is Turk going, Tarzan? That's your baby. Name him whatever you want.
Yeah, and I guess it's more of a joke for the people who read the books and know that that's what that means. But
It's only now that I'm realizing my Turk impression is more Bugs Bunny than Rosie O'Donnell.
it's all kind of the same.
Brooklyn, it's a Brooklyn accent.
Yeah, it's all kind of Brooklyn. Yeah.
So, and Kala, like a gorilla, is trying to carry the baby on her back, like every gorilla we've seen in this movie do. And Tarzan is falling off because he's not a gorilla; he can't hang on yet. And starts to fall. Tarzan falls off, and he starts to cry. And to calm him, Kala starts to sing to him, and we get probably the best version of "You'll Be in My Heart," sung by Glenn Close for that first verse.
Yeah, and honestly, it works a little bit better as a lullaby. It really, it annoys me less as an a cappella lullaby.
And that I would have liked this part of the movie more. I would have probably have a little bit more favor to this movie had Glenn Close had sung the entire song as a lullaby rather than we cut after the first verse to Phil Collins singing.
Yeah, because every time we cut to Phil Collins singing, it's a montage.
Yep.
Everything has to stop so Phil Collins can sing. And I think that's really the problem audiences had with this. Because in a musical, if it's done right, even if it's a pop song musical, we talked before about my love of ABBA and how I wish they had gotten to do The Lion King. Go watch an ABBA musical. Those guys know how to weave a pop song into the narrative. I mean, the big song from Chess, One Night in Bangkok, was a huge hit in the 80s just on the radio. Mm-hmm. But if you watch it in the context of the play, it absolutely works as a song within the play, and it's a narrative song just like this one is. It's got a pop beat. It's, I mean, this can work. I just don't think Phil Collins is the person to do it.
Yeah. So, in one night, we fast forward 7 years.
Yeah.
Tarzan, now voiced by Alec D. Linz, we automatically at the beginning find his ability to mimic any animal sound when he scares Kala by imitating an elephant.
Yeah. Alex D. Linz is kind of interesting to people of our generation because he's the kid that took over for Macaulay Culkin in the Home Alone movies. He's the Macaulay Culkin stand-in when you get to Home Alone 3.
Fake Kevin.
Yeah, he's fake Kevin. He was also in The Cable Guy, and he was in a very interesting movie that I liked, a Don Bluth animated movie, Titan AE, as the voice of the main character as a child.
Titan AE, which is now owned by Disney.
Which is now owned by Disney, and we may get to it eventually, but it was not produced by Disney originally. So
No.
But I do like that movie, and we may use the merger as an excuse to get to it one day because I would love to talk about it.
We can get to a lot of the Fox movies if you.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get away from Disney created this originally to Disney just bought this.
So anyway, Kala encourages Tarzan to come up with his own sound. Don't mimic other animal sounds. Make up your own sound. And he comes up with the Tarzan yell. It's a nice explanation of how he got to it.
Yeah, because we like I said, in the books, it's supposed to be that he's mimicking the fight call of a gorilla. But in the movies, he just has this really weird sound that it doesn't really exist in human or gorilla culture. So why does Tarzan have this sound? So I kind of like that Disney was like, well, we have to use the yell, but
how do we explain it?
I read a great review of this film that said of Disney using the Tarzan yell, the Weissmuller yell. That Disney knew better than to screw with the Tarzan yell, and Disney screws with everything. So I do like its inclusion here. It is really cute because if you know nothing about Tarzan, you still know the yell.
Yeah. So he starts making up his own yell, and then all the other gorilla kids start imitating Tarzan's yell, and they're kind of get angry at Kala for it.
Yeah, all the parents are like, great, this is Baby Shark. You have just unleashed Baby Shark into the child group there. You know, it's like patient zero at the daycare that's like,
Yeah.
I just heard a new song. It's called Baby Shark. Let's watch it.
And Kerchak still doesn't like Tarzan. None of the apes like Tarzan, except for Turk. And Tarzan wants to be liked. You know, he's like any kid. He just wants to belong. He just wants to be liked by somebody.
This is the mermaid guppy thing all over again, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
More
then guppy racism.
We then meet, they're only in this part of the movie, but we meet Flint and Mungo, voiced by Eric Von Detten and Jason Marston, who are Turk's friends in this little scene. And they don't want to hang out with Tarzan. They don't want to hang out with the hairless one, as they call him.
Yeah.
But Turk, you know, Turk likes Tarzan. They're buddies. In this version, they're listed as cousins, which I'm grateful for because we don't want to have the idea of them, they did not go with Turk having feelings for Tarzan.
Yeah.
They could have if they really wanted to, but I'm glad that they didn't. So
yeah, I'm glad that Disney kind of stayed away from that. We already had some weirdness with Beauty and the Beast. Better not to make Disney that company.
So you know, Turk says, well, you know, if you want to hang out with us, you have to do a dare. Which, again, this is something a kid would do. You know, hey, you know, if you want to prove how cool you are, you'll do this thing. So she just makes up a dare to grab an elephant hair because she hears, you know, she scratches her head and the hair falls out. Oh, you got to grab a hair. And then she hears the elephants at the watering hole from an elephant. Because, you know, oh, you know, he's not going to do it. That's too crazy. He's going to go away and the three of us can hang out and do things. Nope. Tarzan dives off a cliff into the watering hole where the elephants are, doing his Tarzan yell. And
yeah, but I do like that it kind of starts off as the yell and then it just becomes like just a yell of terror as he falls.
He miscalculated how high that cliff was.
Yeah. It's a very Pocahontas move. It's like, oh, I need to get off this cliff. I'll just jump right off it. And everybody else is like, no!
And there's a nice moment here where Tarzan, in his mimicking motif, teaches himself to swim by mimicking a hippo.
Yeah.
In that 1 second, he teaches himself how to swim.
Yeah, humans really do get the shaft as infants because we have to be taught everything, but you can drop, like, you know, a newborn baby, almost any other animal into water, and they'll know how to swim instinctively. So,
Well, these kids
it was interesting to see it.
They spend 9 months surrounded by water. They know what to do.
But so do we. I mean, like...
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Humans spend the first 9 months of their existence surrounded by water. They know how to swim.
Yeah, except that when they come out of the womb, they don't know how to swim anymore, and they will drown immediately. So don't test that, please.
Yeah, don't. But, you know, again, Tarzan teaches them how to swim, and among the elephants is a very neurotic one named Tantor, which in this early part is voiced by Taylor Dempsey, who thinks Tarzan is a piranha. And there's this big weird discussion of, do piranhas exist in Africa among the adult elephants?
Yeah, the weirdest thing about this scene to me, because it is a funny scene, and I do like the humor in it, because we've all known that kid, or were that kid.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of afraid of everything, and, you know, like, will be standing on dry land and go, like, I'm afraid that a piranha's going to bite me. It's like, you're on dry land. They only live on water, you know, but there's always that one kid. So I liked the joke, but the thing that made me worry is I was like, man, elephants must be dumb, because immediately a kid is like, piranha! And all the adults are like, yes, we will take the word of this, like, neurotic kid that's always worried about nonsense and is never right about anything. Yeah, sure. Let's go stampede because this kid's fantasy.
Yeah, so we're kind of getting ahead of it, yeah, but the piranha rips a hair off one of the elephant's tails, scaring them all, and they stampede out of the watering hole into the gorilla's nest, almost trampling them. Oops.
Specifically a kid,
Yes.
almost trampling a baby gorilla. This is one of the few times where Disney's like, yeah, random child endangerment, that sounds great. I mean, they'll do it for kind of like to the main character to, evoke sympathy, but this is just kind of one of the first times where it's like, let's hurl that child in front of a passing bus or something.
But, it's the point of what they're trying to tell the story here. So Tarzan gets the hair, and he gets immediately in trouble, and with Kerchak trying to, the entire gorillas, including Kerchak, trying to tell her, hey, you almost killed somebody with your little stunt. How can you do this? You'll never be one of us. And, you're yelling at a kid. Granted, the kid did a very bad thing. He, but he's still a kid. Even Colin's trying to say he's just a kid, and
but here we get the difference between humans and other animals, and honestly humans like 200 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that we have of childhood is super recent. I mean like ridiculously recent, like only a couple of generations back. For most of human history, there was baby that couldn't do anything and had to be nursed and cared for all the time. But by the time that child started speaking and having some motor control, they were just kind of tiny adult. Like, it was like, oh, they're old enough to work now, go do this and go do that. And so the distinction between human adults and human children is not the distinction we have now through almost all of human history. And in animals, once a child would have been the age of Tarzan, like all the other apes that he's surrounded by, they would have been young apes, but societally they're kind of just in the pack then, like they're just in the group. So it's an interesting anthropomorphization of his mother taking on this kind of weirdly human attitude of like, you can't yell at him, he's a tiny little kid, which we sympathize with, but I'm kind of with Kerchak on this because I'm like, wow, that is not how gorillas do things. Like, that kid is old enough to know better in gorilla society.
Yeah, and Kerchak said, he'll never be one of them because of how he looks, and Tarzan runs away. Obviously, he just got yelled at, and he's, got told by his adopted father that he'll never be accepted. He runs away, eventually throwing mud all over himself in an attempt to look like an ape. And, you kind of feel for him. Like, he just got told, because of how you look, you will never be accepted. So he just tries to make himself look acceptable, which I think anyone can attach themselves to. Anyone can relate to that moment.
I am going to say I wish they had picked any other way for him to do that.
Yeah.
Try to rip hair from his head and stick it to his body. Anything else other than like, let me cover my face with the darkest substance I can find because that will make me look ape-like. Like, yes, I know where you're going with, but maybe can we not?
Yeah,
I don't know. It was very uncomfortable, especially since by this point, Tarzan has locks, which is weird.
Yeah.
That's not a way his hair would grow naturally. So either he has the most horribly matted hair, which he wouldn't because gorillas are social groomers and are actually really, really clean and keep their fur very nice and tangle-free. So I can't believe that he would just have matted wads of hair. But he also, that's not the ethnicity where you can lock your hair like that. Sorry. Like, why did you choose to draw him like that? Don't do that. No, please. No.
Let's fast forward a little bit from here, and Kala finds him, and they go over the similarities. You know, hey, you look different, but we have similarities: eyes, nose, ears, hands, heartbeat. You know, and it's a nice warming gesture there of, you know, we are different, but we are the same. And Tarzan
I love that scene. I love everything about that scene. You know, her going like, you know, somewhere under here there's a nose, and all as she's cleaning him off and everything. I love everything about that, and Glenn Close plays that so perfectly. It's so adorable and maternal, and you just want to like take that scene and curl up inside of it and have like a nice warm fuzzy.
Glenn Close has like the perfect mom voice right there.
She does. It's so beautiful.
Which, again,
and
considering she
so
just played Cruella de Vil not too long ago.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're not the first ones to note that Glenn Close is an amazing actress, but bravo to her for that, because she is just the mom you desperately want in this movie. Like, you know, oh, she's so amazing.
And Tarzan makes that vow. He's going to make Kerchak see that he's worthy of being an ape. He's going to be the best ape ever. Which, again, it's something that a kid would say. But
Yeah.
he has a goal to... If this was a proper Disney musical, we would have a song and number about him being, I guess, can't wait to be an ape.
Yeah, I think that this is the only Disney Renaissance movie that does not have an I Want song. And
Well,
you
it's not
really do feel it.
Yeah. But we do get our montage number 2 with the song Son of Man. Tarzan, he tries doing things the ape way, and it doesn't work. You know, he can't climb a tree the way an ape can. So he adapts. He mimics a rhino scraping a tree with a rock. He mimics the tree monkeys by swinging on vines. He creates a spear to grab fruit from the trees. He creates a canopy to make sure his mother is not wet when it rains. He's a good son.
Yeah.
And it's also like, I think the point of it is to show human ingenuity versus ape ingenuity, I guess. Maybe. Shrug.
Yeah. I don't know.
And we get one of the few 90s references or modern references because Tarzan surfs on tree branches.
Yeah, this is, I did write down that I think this is the shot. The Tarzan skating through the trees, ending with that crouching on a branch.
Yeah.
Because that is how all of the trailers ended for this movie.
And I've heard a story that Michael Eisner's kids were either getting into skateboarding or getting into surfing, and he kind of suggested that would be in the movie, and this was their response to it, of having him surf on the tree branches.
I don't know, but it does not work. Like, this is very much, you know, Lord of the Rings, Legolas grabs the shield and surfs downstairs. Like, it's just so out of nowhere, and you're like, why is this happening? And then you're like...
Because we're still in the 90s.
Yeah, because the 90s. Like, you just wanted Tarzan, not wanted, but you just half expected Tarzan to scream, like, radical! And, you know, like, it's just, I don't like it. I don't like it. No.
So during that entire montage, 13 years have passed, and Tarzan is now adult, and now voiced by Tony Goldwyn.
I gotta say something about Tony Goldwyn.
Go ahead.
Tony Goldwyn is like Hollywood royalty. That last name, as in Metro Goldwyn Mayer.
Yep.
He is the grandson of Samuel Goldwyn. I mean, and I think like his brother or something is like currently the head of that studio or whatever.
And considering Disney and MGM had their partnership here with the Disney MGM studios.
Yeah, but I don't want to sell him short as an actor and just be like that was the only reason they hired him, because this guy is also the guy in everything. Most recently, you would know him in Scandal. He was the president in the big ABC series, also again Disney. Scandal. He was the father of the two main characters in the Divergent series, movie series. He also has done a couple of, like, I'm a big horror fan, and he's done, you know, some interesting horror films and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he's that guy that's in all of the things. But, you know, also he's Samuel Goldwyn's grandson, which is the coolest thing in the world to me. So.
And in Tarzan, he's still playing around with Turk, and now we have adult Tantor, who's now voiced by Wayne Knight.
Hey, Tantor, we got Tantor here. See, nobody cares.
Hello, Tantor.
How many Wayne Knight references can we make? Only those two.
You didn't say the magic word.
Yeah.
Okay, enough Wayne Knight references. Enough Wayne Knight
In the future, when Disney owns Jurassic Park, this will be way funnier to you people. All right.
So Tarzan tries to scare Nala the same way he did earlier in the movie, half an hour ago. But Kala's ready for it. Don't you even think about it. How'd you know it was me? I'm your mother. I know everything. And every mother watching this movie is pointing to, yep, that's right. I know everything.
I have eyes in the back of my head.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a very mom line.
Yeah. And the fun and games stop when Sabor attacks again. That is patience. 20 years waited.
Yeah. I don't even know. How long do leopards live? I actually don't know. That leopard has been waiting for a long time.
And Kerchak tries to fight Sabor off, but is injured. Tarzan goes to fight, armed with the spear he made during our little montage. And it's a nice little chase sequence between the two, eventually ending with Tarzan slaying Sabor with the spear. And Tarzan gains respect of the apes, although it looks like Kerchak is about to say something positive about Tarzan, but he's very hesitant to even accept him. Like, that's still, he's not like us mentality. It's starting to get in there. You kind of see his eyes shifting. It's like, he did just save our lives, but he's still different than us. But he saved our lives, but he's still different than us.
I think Kerchak's just mad because Sabor stole his thunder, because in the book, Kerchak is the one who kills Tarzan's parents.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it's not like their relationship is not the same. It's just Kerchak kills the parents, and then sort of unrelatedly Kala adopts the baby. But it's not, you know, it's not really a thing that's there. But in this one, because they wanted to do the father figure idea, they changed it to a leopard.
So gunshots ring out through the jungle, and Kerchak tells the pack to move. Like, we're getting out of here. We don't know what that sound is. They try to make a Pumbaa joke here with Tantor. That, yeah.
Yeah, Disney may just need to lay off the flatulence humor. It doesn't seem to work out as well as they think it will.
They could have made a joke about being thunder, but the clouds aren't, but the sky's still bright. How can that be thunder? That would have made at least a little bit more sense in terms of the jungle.
Yeah.
But as the pack is getting away from the noise, Tarzan goes off to find out what the sound was. Enter William Clayton, voiced by Brian Blessed, who also does the Tarzan yell for adult Tarzan in this movie. William Clayton, a character from the books, but not the character that he's portrayed in this movie.
Yeah. In the book, this is Tarzan's cousin.
Yes.
Remember that his parents were lost and did not have a child when they were lost. Nobody knows that the parents survived at all, much less had a child. And in the book, Tarzan was nobility. He was English nobility, and his parents were the Earl and the Countess of Greystoke. And their last name was Clayton. So this was his cousin in the book that he just happened to run into, and had become the heir to. He is the new Earl Greystoke. He has inherited the entire family fortune, and unknowingly is the usurper to Tarzan's rightful place in society. So, interesting change here, because that is nothing in this.
And also a rival for Jane's affections in the book.
Not just a rival. Spoiler alert for a book from 1912, but Tarzan and Jane are not an item at the end of the book. She is marrying William Clayton for his money. Tarzan decides that Jane seems happier. He never claims his birthright, and he just kind of goes off and lives his own life. So the idea of Tarzan and Jane in the jungle, I think, really got cemented in the public consciousness by the Johnny Weissmuller movies. Because in those movies, throughout that series of movies, you know, Tarzan meets Jane, he falls in love, Jane moves to the jungle, they have a child, they eventually have a daughter, I think. They have a son and then a daughter, I think. They have like a whole family unit. They're, you know. So I think that our idea of, you know, me Tarzan, you Jane, now we're in love is not entirely absent from the book. I don't want to say that. There is some attraction and some idea of love there, but the idea of living happily ever after in the jungle is definitely much later in the film versions.
Yeah. So Clayton is, in this one, he's just a hunter. He's not nobility, at least as far as we know.
Yeah, we actually don't know anything about this. This is my one. He's a good villain, but he is so two-dimensional even for a Disney villain.
Yeah.
We do not know his. We don't even know his motivation for being on this trip until the very end of the movie. Mm-hmm. For most of the movie, he's just an angry guy who shoots a gun a lot for no reason.
He's just an a-hole.
Yeah, and I am kind of mad at this because Brian Blessed is like an amazing actor. You want him to be the huge, bombastic, funny Brian Blessed. Like, this man is perfect for a great, interesting, humorous, charismatic Disney villain. And they give him a guy who barely speaks 5 words and whose only character trait is that he shoots a gun a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so mad at this because they have wasted what could have been one of the greatest Disney villains of all time, I think. And
Clayton here serves as a guide to two explorers, Professor Archimedes Q. Porter, voiced by Sir Nigel Hawthorne, I almost got that wrong, and his daughter Jane Porter, voiced by Minnie Driver.
Yeah.
An Oscar winner, Minnie Driver, I think.
Yeah, and Nigel Hawthorne is, a legend in his own right. Mm-hmm. He also is an Oscar nominee, at least, for King George and the Madness of King George. But especially if you're a fan of British TV, you know him as Sir Humphrey from Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister. Probably his best known work, and even if you live in America, you can see that series sometimes on PBS. But absolutely just a legend. And he also was in the Black Cauldron. So this was not his first Disney outing. So, he had done Black Cauldron back in the kind of, dark years pre-Renaissance, and then he came back for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the professor and Jane, they're there to study gorillas. They make this outright as soon as we see them. They're there to study and see the lifestyle of the African gorilla. While Clayton is just a trigger-happy gun shooting at anything that moves.
Yeah.
He's trigger-happy. He'll shoot anything for any reason.
And you do have the feeling at this point in the movie that he's up to no good, but you don't know why, other than the fact that he's stern and he cares a little too much about his gun, and so we kind of get the idea that those are bad traits, but we don't really know why he's here or what he's up to. So yeah, I don't like the way that the villain is introduced, but I do like the way that Jane and her father are introduced.
So Clayton and the professor move on. They're going to keep going, even though they realize that where they're at is a gorilla's nest, but the gorillas are not there, so they move on. And Jane ends up getting distracted by a baby baboon, and we find out that she's an artist, taking out a sketchbook and in like 5 seconds drawing a full sketch of said baby baboon. And the baboon...
Fastest artist ever. I mean, we know artists who are pretty fast at their drawing, and Jane would kick every one of them.
Let's get a job. Let's get Jane a job at the Disney Animation Studio.
Yeah, Jane could turn out an entire Disney animated movie in about 3 days.
So the baboon is actually impressed of this drawing of himself, and he starts grooming his hair. Like, look how hot I look, and steals the entire book. Just straight up, not just the page, it's the whole book. And Jane, it is kind of funny in the way she steals it back. Like, you're gonna give it to me in 1, 2. Oh, look, a banana, and then takes it back. I can't believe you fell for that. But this draws the ire of the entire baboon pack, who chase Jane.
Yeah. And for a little bit, it's kind of difficult to even see that they're baboons, because they're just kind of black shadows with red eyes and growling faces for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. It almost looks like a pack of, like, demon ghosts or something coming at her, rather than any kind of monkey for a while.
And amazingly, the baboons are drawn the most realistically of any animal in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, they get a lot right about the gorillas, and I'll get to that in a minute, but the baboons, they really draw them kind of hyper-realistically in this scene once you get a better look at them. And everything else is kind of very cartoonish and all. So you're right. This is a very weird juxtaposition. It almost feels to me with the animation that like 4 different teams were working on this movie and none of them were talking to each other. Because you get some things like the fire on the water in the beginning, that is like A-team material. You're like, yes, this is right up there with anything out of Beauty and the Beast or Lion King. Yes, go animation team. And then the character designs are kind of lackluster. Most of the animals are kind of weird and cartoony. We didn't talk about him taunting the snake and stuff and making it, tie itself in knots. But that snake is the most cartoony thing in the movie. It doesn't look anything like a real snake. And everything. And then all of a sudden you get hyper-realistic baboon chase. And it's almost like they just told like several different sections of the studio to draw a Tarzan movie, and they gave them no other direction, and none of them saw the other one's work until they were putting it together at the end. It's a very strange movie to me.
Yeah, the only other animals in this movie that look even close to as realistic as the baboons are the birds that Jane is drawing later in the movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, Tarzan saves Jane, and this entire scene shows me that they should have had that one of the parks should have had a coaster based off Tarzan. This entire scene of surfing through the branches, going upside down. I mean, that would have made a great roller coaster.
Yeah, it is interesting. If you are prone to severe motion sickness, this might not be the scene for you. The only thing that gets really bad sometimes. I don't suffer from like extreme motion sickness, but sometimes watching movies like this, especially in a theater where it's all you can see, I have that problem with a lot with especially the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, because they follow him through swinging through the air so much that it will get to me. And this is one of those that can be a little bit of an issue for me if I don't remember to like look away at certain points. But this is really cool, and I like the animation, except this is another one where they were shoving CGI in, because a lot of the trees are CGI, and it does not really work, because the rest of the style is so aggressively cartoony that it sticks out like a sore thumb. It's not great.
And then you get a little bit of crude humor by Tarzan holding Jane over this hollow rock, and the rock gives way, and he does the splits, and with the shock pain look on his face.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a funny joke, but kind of on a low for a Disney movie.
Yeah. But you know what? I don't care who you are or what kind of equipment you're working with. If you haven't trained for that, a sudden split will put pain in areas you do not want pain in. Okay.
So the rescue goes off fine, and the baboon ends up getting the sketch back by floating down with Jane's own umbrella or parasol.
Yeah.
Jane actually is very skilled with the parasol, as she uses it to fight off some of the baboons, even opening it to kind of as a sort of a cow catcher in front of Tarzan.
Yeah.
So after the rescue, after all of that, much like earlier in the movie, half an hour or 45 minutes ago, Tarzan compares himself to her because he's never seen anyone that looks like him before. You know, the same way, the eyes, the hands, the heartbeat. He ends up tickling her feet and tries to pull the dress up, and that's when the fun and games end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say something about the hand, though, because this is one of my favorite bits in the movie, and it's also probably my favorite bit of animation. I said before that they got a lot of things about the gorillas right, and the thing is that even though the gorillas are drawn really cartoony, the way they move, and also the way Tarzan moves for most of this movie, they did their research.
Yeah,
I mean,
the knuckle, the walking on the knuckles.
But I mean, down to the way that, like, the head will lead, the way the shoulders kind of precede the placement of the hands, you know, there's some little subtleties in there that if you pay a lot of attention to animals, which I do, the way that he moves his muscles and stuff is not a way a human would, but they have worked so hard to, and same with the gorillas, because most of the time, Turk doesn't do it a lot, but the, because, you know, she's animated more for comedy, but when they're just showing gorillas moving through the jungle, they really do get the movement of gorillas very accurate, but it's kind of superimposed on these, like, really cartoony drawings of gorillas, so it's a little strange. But I love that he puts his hand up to hers and his fingers are curled, like a gorilla would, and then he slowly flattens them out and realizes that his hand looks like hers. And I love that little moment because it's not like he just shoves his hand up to hers and it's like, oh, look, we both have hands. Like, it's him realizing, like, this is how a human would hold their hand, which is such a nice little subtle moment. And it happens kind of more than one time in the movie. But I love that. And I love that when you see the close-up of Tarzan's hands, the knuckles of his fist are very pronounced and very, you know, you can tell that they've grown calluses and that the bones have thickened there from repeated use, which is, I like the little touches like that. It's so weird that they dropped the ball on some of the major stuff, but these tiny little details are so lovingly done. It's so beautiful. Oh.
Yeah, and then, again, Tarzan's mimicry as he starts to mimic Jane's words, which scares the crap out of Jane.
Yeah.
You know, very nice.
Yeah, I do love the way that, like, the second she realizes he can speak, or she thinks he can speak, the second that she realizes that he can understand her, she just starts jabbering away, which, you know, I kind of felt in my very soul, like, because as you may have noticed, I am a bit of a talker.
No, I never noticed that.
You know, so the second that I'm like, you know, and I spend a lot of my time alone, you know, for health reasons and stuff like that. So when I get to be around humans, I tend to kind of go a little overboard with that. And I like that Jane is like that too. She spends so much of her time around animals and in the wild like this. They've been on this, I don't know if you want to call it a safari or what, but they've been on this trip for a while now with no success and all. And she's just like, a new human to talk to. Let me tell you everything about me.
And then she does kind of catch herself because she realizes this person does not speak the language, so she has to slow it down. And then Tarzan, amazingly, Tarzan introduces himself, points to himself, Tarzan. One, how does he know how Tarzan sounds like in human language? Whatever.
Well, the thing is, again, in the books, it's a language. It's not the grunts that we hear in the Disney film. They really did separate that when Tarzan's talking to the apes, we hear English. But when other humans are around, the other humans hear grunts. But it makes a little more sense in the books because for some reason, and it's because it's 1912 and nobody knows anything about the behavior of gorillas, much less burros. The apes have their own actual language that is similar enough to the way a human would talk that it kind of translates. So I think that the best we can say about this movie linguistically is that he realizes that her noises are a form of communication, and he does try to communicate back in his own way. It is the one bit of ape language that comes across as a word humans can say, though, and it's very weird.
And then we get, Tarzan, Jane, Tarzan. There's a nice little funny thing, oh, I see Tarzan. Oh, I see. What do you think? He thinks, oh, I see, it's her name.
Yeah.
And, she goes, no. Tarzan, Jane, Tarzan, Jane. And, after introductions, there's another gunshot. Jane goes, Clayton, which comes back later in the movie.
Yeah.
And Tarzan mimics the gunfire sound. Keep that in mind. He can not only mimic animal noises and people language, but he can imitate sounds that objects make.
Tarzan is going to go on to a great career when they remake the and now I've just blanked on it. The cop movies where the guy makes all
Police Academy.
Yeah, I've never seen any of those movies, but I did love him in Spaceballs. I should have just gone with Spaceballs. Go with what you know, right? Now everybody's gonna laugh at me because I've never seen Police Academy, but I haven't, and I'm not gonna. So, meh.
Tarzan would make a great voice actor. He'd be Frank Welker.
Yeah, Frank Welker, who is not in this freaking movie.
Yeah.
This movie is full of animals. I have not seen, I haven't entirely gone through the IMDb, but I did not see him credited anywhere in this
movie, no.
In this movie.
Frank Welker actually does the voice for, or the animal sounds for, Sabor in Tarzan 2, though, and that's as far as that goes.
Yeah, but yeah, this is probably the smallest voice cast of any,
Renaissance movie, yeah.
Yeah, maybe of any Disney, full-length Disney movie, because this is like a tiny, tiny voice cast.
Well, there's not many characters either, so. But anyway, Tarzan, they do some coaching from Jane. Tarzan takes her back to camp. Speaking of camp, Turk, Tantor, and the gorilla finds it. And we get a cameo from Mrs. Potts.
Mrs. Potts, no! That's actually in my notes. I just wrote down Mrs. Potts, no!
So they explore things in the camp, and then they break the things in the camp. And they like the way the things sound, which leads us to the only song in the movie actually sung completely by the characters in it, Trash in the Camp.
Yeah, which is not even really sung. This is a jazz scat song. Yeah, there's no actual lyrics to this song.
If you listen,
interesting.
It's Stomp.
it's interesting. It's, hey, let's play around with the stuff in the camp, and then Rosie O'Donnell starts going like doobity doop 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 doop, and then it ends. Sadly, it's the best song in the movie.
Yeah, if you listen enough, you'll hear Phil Collins singing as one of the gorillas. And this is the song they decided to bring in NSYNC to sing. There is a version of this with Phil Collins and NSYNC.
That's a combination that nobody wants. At least nobody who is me.
So, kids, back in the 90s, there was a show called Stomp, which pretty much was making music using common household items. And they put it in this movie.
Yeah. If you've ever seen Bob's Burgers, where they go to see the show Cake, that's what Stomp was. It's just that, except not patty cake. It's trash can lids.
It is the most catchiest song in the movie, and yeah, it's probably the best song in this movie. And there's no lyrics. It's just doopy doop dap dap doopy dap.
Well, actually, if you Google "trash in the camp," because I did, the funniest thing about this to me was that Google will provide you the lyrics to "Trash in the Camp." And now, a recitation of some of the lyrics to "Trash in the Camp." Shooby doop, dobby dop, dobby doop, dobby da da, doo dop. Shooby doop, dobby dop, dobby doop, dobby da da, dobby up. Thank you. I just love, I'm like, who sat down and meticulously translated?
Phil Collins wrote this. Anyway, yeah. Tarzan and Jane arrive at the camp as seeing Turk and the gorillas and Tantor just destroying everything. And Tarzan starts playing around with Turk because, hey, it's my buddy. I'm going to wrestle with my buddy. And Jane figures it out. Oh, he's one of the. Oh, he's with that pack. That's his pack. But Kerchak arrives, so the party's over. No words are said by no English words anyway, but just some grunts. But it's clear, party's over. Everybody ship out.
And it's also clear that Tarzan was standing up for Jane, because there is a little bit of grunt exchange that we are not privy to the exact meaning of, but it's very obvious in the context that Kerchak's like, oh great, more of you, and he's like, no, back off, she's with me, she's not going to hurt anything, Yeah.
And the apes leave, and Kala is kind of having Tarzan's hand, kind of leading him away. Just as Clayton and the professor arrive, and Jane explains everything that we just told you in the last about 10-15 minutes. And it is said that Minnie Driver completely ad-libbed this entire scene. The entire recap of the movie up to this point. Which, kudos to Minnie Driver.
Yeah, Minnie Driver, who is just so amazing. I love her so much, and I'm glad that she's kind of, after this, she kind of had a dip in her career for a little bit. Not directly after Tarzan. I don't want to blame Tarzan for that. But, kind of in the mid-90s, in the early 2000s, she kind of just didn't get a lot of work for a while. And just recently, within the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years or so, she started showing up in a lot of stuff again, including working for Disney yet again as the mother in a show called Speechless, which is criminally underrated in my opinion. I really enjoyed that show, and she was excellent in it.
I blame her being in Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, sadly though, she was the best thing about that version of Phantom of the Opera. It was like everything was awful, and then Minnie Driver was just kind of awesome for a few minutes, and then it was awful again. So
But then, again, Ghost Singer, you couldn't pay her to sing in that movie.
yeah,
Anyway, but we're getting off track here. So let's go back to the movie. At the Gorilla's Nest, Kerchak orders everyone to stay away from the humans, or the strangers, as he's calling them. And Tarzan is upset over the whole thing. They're not here to hurt us. They're not going to hurt anybody. And even getting upset at Kala for saying, why didn't you never tell me that there were others that looked like me? And Tarzan makes a point. Like, trying to raise him as a gorilla, fine, but like, he's different. You gotta say something at some point. It's like the teenager that finds out that they're adopted. Why didn't you tell me I was adopted?
yeah. One of the people who married into my family didn't find out he was adopted until he was in his 60s or something, and his final parent passed away, and he was looking in he was going through their paperwork to get stuff out and found his own adoption papers.
Ooh.
And by that point, he had no one to ask about, because that was the last member of his family that would have been born before him. So he just kind of stared at it and went, "Okay, apparently that's a thing." So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So back at the camp, Jane describes Tarzan. Jane and the professor getting down on all fours doing a gorilla walk. It's hilarious. But Jane very quickly drawing Tarzan on the chalkboard. And as she's drawing Tarzan, she kind of becomes infatuated with Tarzan in a way. Even the professor joking, "Do you two want to be alone?" It's right off the bat.
I love how progressive her dad is. Like Jane's father is just super down for everything, and I kind of love it. It's like, "Oh, you just met a strange gorilla man. Okay, that's fine. I will accept him.
Yeah.
Feel free to go and marry this strange gorilla man who doesn't fit in with human society. That seems fine."
And it's Jane that says the phrase "Tarzan the Ape Man," which was the original Tarzan movie called.
Yeah. There are a lot of interesting throwbacks to some of the early moments in Tarzan history.
Yeah. So, like you said, the professor's is all for this. She believes his daughter that this ape man exists. Clayton doesn't, until Tarzan literally drops in to visit. Literally drops in. Tarzan is real. And Clayton goes to shoot Tarzan, but Jane moves the gun out of the way as it goes off, which leads to Tarzan saying Clayton's name, like Jane did earlier. Which gets Clayton to ask if they've met before. But Jane says that's what Tarzan thinks the gunshot means. Which, that whole scene, again, referencing the book, is a nice reference between the two characters' relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably like one of those, for the real hardcore fans of the book, I guess. But
Yeah, and I do like that. Yeah, I mean, it's a little like, yes, we know we're using the name of this character, but no, we're not going to use any of the rest of him.
yeah. So the professor goes to Tarzan thinking that he could be the missing link between ape and man evolution, which says a lot considering this era evolution will be considered taboo.
In some ways, for the type of scientifically minded people that Jane and her father are portrayed to be, it probably would be considered normal in their circles to have followed Darwin's work. maybe you wouldn't say that at a polite society dinner at the time. You definitely wouldn't say it around the priest or the vicar or whoever might be around from the clergy. But in a scientific circle, that was kind of it's already a thing by that point.
But Clayton thinks that Tarzan could lead him to the gorillas. And Clayton tries to teach Tarzan English and his own little crude drawing of a gorilla, but it fails miserably. Clayton is just not that good of an artist compared to Jane, apparently.
Well, and also, just as a teacher, I can tell you that just like randomly screaming things repeatedly at someone is never going to teach them anything.
And they make a point to say that in this movie, in that scene. You know, yelling at him isn't going to make him understand more.
Yeah, and being the person who is frequently around people who do not speak English as a first language, boy, do I get annoyed at the human tendency to just yell louder and they will understand my language somehow. It's like, it is possibly the most ridiculous thing humans do. Like, hello, how are you? And then it's like, I'm sorry, I don't speak English, I'm speaking French right now or whatever. And then they're just like, hello, how are you? Like, that's not how language works.
So Jane's going to give this a go in teaching Tarzan the ways of civilized society, I suppose, which leads us to another montage to the song "Strangers Like Me."
We gotta have a montage, 'cause of freaking Phil Collins. It's another montage. I'm sorry, I hate the montages in this movie. It's just so tedious.
Yep, and it's Jane that teaches Tarzan how to read, ironically using a Run Jane Run book.
Yeah, like I said, excuse me. Excuse me. Like I said earlier, that he's self-taught in the book. Yeah, that's his first interaction with human society. So it's interesting that she has done that. Also, why does she have a primary reader in this library?
It's possible that they were seeing if they could run into natives, and similar to John Smith, teach the native people civilized society.
Yeah, maybe. It doesn't seem to be their point to their mission, though, but it does seem to be a very British thing to have done, especially at that point in time.
And the professor teaches Tarzan how to ride a penny farthing.
Yeah.
On a tree branch, because that's where you want to ride a bike on.
Yeah, especially a penny farthing, which was not known to be the most stable of transportation methods.
And of course, Clayton is just interested in the gorillas. That's his entire interest in his entire movie. And in turn, Tarzan teaches Jane how to swing on vines. So they're teaching each other things, and the two are starting to get infatuated with each other. So it's very obvious these two are into each other. Okay.
But you know what? I like the way they build this relationship far more than the way they didn't build one in Mulan.
Yeah,
I mean, this one feels earned.
Yes, this is one song, but this is supposed to be taking place over several months. So they've likely spent several months together getting to know each other, and they've become infatuated with each other over that time. This isn't they've known each other 5 minutes and they're in love.
Yeah. This is probably one of the more earned Disney romances, to be honest. Because just the amount of time they're spending together and the relationship between the two before it turns romantic, that they are meeting roughly as equals, and it's not an immediate, I think Tarzan is immediately interested in Jane just because he realizes she's another one of his kind.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's immediately interested in her on a romantic level because I don't think he quite gets how that works with humans.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Anything he would have known about mating would have been from gorillas. So,
Oh, that
take
would have
that
been
as you will.
interesting. That would have been interesting.
So, even the things like, we got very annoyed at the sexualized jokes in Mulan. We didn't really get annoyed at him trying to lift up her skirt because it's very obvious in the context of the movie there's nothing behind that to his character. I'm a little annoyed at the animators for going like, why doesn't he lift up his skirt? That'll be funny. Because that was an animator thing. But in the context of the movie, you can't fault Tarzan for that. He's not doing anything that is crossing a line. He sees fabric. He's never seen fabric before. He's going to try to figure out what it is. Is this her shape or is this, something that's added?
Saw that before. I mean, just a few seconds before that with him, taking her glove off, thinking that's her hand, but then realizes this is a piece of fabric over her hand.
Yeah. So that aside, I do like the way they build this relationship. By the time you get to the end of the movie, it really does feel earned. It feels like these two characters have been on a journey together, have gotten to know each other better, have gotten to appreciate, each other more. So I like, I think the romance part of this is probably my favorite part of the whole movie.
All right. So, yeah, definitely. So, we get a little pause in the song here as Clayton saying that the boat to take them back to London could arrive at any day, and they need to know where the gorillas are. But they've been wasting time teaching Tarzan to be civilized rather than trying to find these gorillas. And they straight up ask Tarzan, "Where are the gorillas?" And Tarzan just says he can't do it. He will not do it because of Kerchak. Well, that's all he says. He just says Kerchak. He doesn't give. Now, that could mean he's afraid of what Kerchak could do to them, or just out of respect to Kerchak as a leader.
Yeah, we don't get too much context for that, but, there's several ways to read that.
Yeah. And then we get that final bit of the song with Tarzan rapid changing the slides on the camera, and this needs a light sensitivity warning.
Yeah, slightly, yeah. It's not for very long, so you can easily close your eyes or look away for a few seconds and miss it, but do know it's there.
Yeah, he's rapidly changing those slides. There's some white flashes. Be careful. So now we've gotten that the boat has now arrived. The boat has arrived to take Clayton and the Porters back to London, and Jane straight up asked Tarzan to come back with him. She has definitely grown closer to Tarzan, and but he's kind of unsure about the whole thing. He doesn't really know if he should go back. Even saying, if I go today, can I come back tomorrow? Not really knowing how, boats travel very slowly. Commercial aircraft hasn't really been invented to that kind of degree yet. And Tarzan straight up asks Jane to stay with him, but she can't. Or she says that she can't, and just runs off sobbing. And Clayton takes this as an opportunity, convincing Tarzan that if Jane sees the gorillas, that she'd stay. Clearly playing off that he realizes that Tarzan has feelings for Jane. And Tarzan eventually agrees and convinces Turk and Tantor to distract Kerchak, get him out of the nest by dressing up as Jane in The Professor. And we kind of get a little comedic moment with Turk wearing Jane's dress.
Yeah, and weirdly coconuts over the outside of the dress.
I don't think Kerchak's gonna really notice. But
No, but I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of weird Like, okay, yeah, if you want to try to mimic that, then okay, coconuts, but why would you wear them on the outside of the dress? You've seen her wear the dress. You know that whatever is causing the lumps in the dress is not over the dress, but under it. I don't know, it's just very strange.
Comedic things.
I find it more confusing than comedic.
Even her saying that the dress was too revealing because she didn't tie up the back.
Yeah.
And all of Tantor is just his trunk. Like, there's a huge elephant with his trunk dressed up as a man. But that's enough. That's enough to fool Kerchak. Kerchak isn't the brightest of gorillas.
I guess not.
Maybe that's why. And Tarzan brings the real Porters and Clayton into the gorilla's nest, introducing Jane to his mother. And that's... And it kind of... Even Jane's kind of confused about the whole thing, but kind of understands very quickly that, Kala is his mother. Or at least that Tarzan sees Kala as his mother.
Yeah.
And slowly the other apes show up and interact with the humans, and there's a lot of fun happening between the porters and the gorillas. There's a social grooming joke there with the professor. And Clayton is clearly marking the location of the gorilla's nest on a map. And then he gets his gun stolen by one of the gorillas, and yeah.
A gorilla who immediately looks down the barrel of it, and it had been so long since I had seen this movie, because I think I saw it like once in theaters and then again for this rewatch. This is not a movie I really, watch. Mm-hmm. But, when I saw that, I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen to that poor gorilla? At the very least, I thought that like the gun would go off and hit the tree next to the gorilla's head and scare it or something. But I honestly did not remember how the scene went enough that it was like saying it for the first time. I was like, no, Disney, what are you doing? Don't teach kids to do that.
Well, you do realize this is the same company that not too long ago released a movie where a porg would look down a lightsaber blade.
That too, but the porg had it coming, so.
Anyway, Jane asks Tarzan to teach her to speak gorilla. And he does, repeat this up, And what he ends up teaching her to say is, Jane will stay with Tarzan, which Jane doesn't like. Like, if you were teaching someone a new language and the phrase you taught them was something that that goes against their character, you wouldn't like that either,
Yeah, like don't do that.
Yeah, that's. I understand what Tarzan. I don't understand the sentiment with Tarzan, but could have tossed her hello, how are you? Wonderful day, isn't it?
Your son is a very fine man.
I would have taught Jane to say Tarzan is very handsome.
Yes.
What did they say? Oh, you said I was very handsome.
Yeah, that seems more like a joke. I could have forgiven Tarzan that one.
Still would have been angry, but you're like, ooh.
Oh, you little scamp. Yeah, a little different there, I think, in the context.
Yeah. Yeah, Jane just like, I told you I can't stay, and well, we never really get a resolution to this because Turk and Tantor run back into the camp with Kerchak following.
Oops.
Yeah. And Kerchak sees Clayton and the gorilla fighting over the gun, and naturally Kerchak attacks Clayton, forcing Tarzan to jump in and choke Kerchak out, allowing the porters and Clayton to escape. Realizing what he's doing, he lets go.
Yeah. Oops.
And Kerchak straight up says, you betrayed us. I told you not to stay away from the humans, and you bring them into our home. And then you freaking choke me? And it's a conflicting moment here for Tarzan, because he realizes that he's human, so he wants to protect the only other humans he's ever seen. But there's also the gorillas that raised him and became part of the family there. So Kala then takes Tarzan back to the treehouse she found him in, and Tarzan finds a picture of him as a baby with his birth parents. And there's a nice little vocal moment there, like, oh, this man is my father, and this woman is my, and he's hesitant to say it, especially with Kala right there, the ape woman that he has known his entire life to be his mother, and he realizes this woman in his picture is his birth mother, and he can't bring himself to say it.
Yeah.
And because Kala is, to kind of answer him in that one, she just says that she just wants Tarzan to be happy. Whatever decision he makes, she wants Tarzan to be happy. And not long after, Tarzan comes out of the treehouse wearing his father's suit, straight up saying he's going with Jane. And Kala starts crying because in her mind, she's going to lose her son.
Again.
But Tarzan kind of comforts her, you will always be my mother, no matter what happens. And Kala says, you will always be in my heart, reference to the earlier song. It's a very nice mother-son moment there. It's like the mothers seeing their son go off to college,
Yeah.
But Tarzan took this suit off his dead father. A dead body that's been sitting there for 20 years. That suit has some serious stink on it.
The best and most generous I can give this movie is that they were on a giant ship. They were fairly-ish close to the shore that they could reach it in a lifeboat.
Mm-hmm.
Tides could have carried in a trunk. They could have, taken the clothes out, washed it, They had to wear something. They were there for, at least months. Maybe a year. I mean, the baby never grows from infant to not infant until after they're dead. So I'm saying it had to be less than a year, but, they were there for a little while, and they were still wearing some form of human clothing, and it didn't look like they were sewing leaves together, So they had fabric and wood, and we're talking planks of wood, and tools somewhere. So I'm thinking that the idea was that the shipwreck washed some of that stuff ashore.
And now that you said this, I think our secretly swole character of the movie is Tarzan's birth mother.
Yeah,
because she's straight up carrying that big plank of wood with Tarzan's father to build the treehouse in the beginning.
Oh yeah. Tarzan's mother looked very, very handy. Like go her.
So yeah,
the best thing about this scene before we move on is the movement once again in the animation, because he comes into the cabin moving like a gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see him leave the cabin in the suit, he is moving like the rest of the human characters, more or less. Mm-hmm. It's a little more halting and a little more stilted, but for the most part, he is holding his hands like a human. He is holding his back like a human. His legs are moving more like a human. So I love the transition between the way he follows his mother into the cabin and then the way he leaves the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
So
I assume Jane taught him how to tie shoes.
Yeah, I'm like, this is this dude's first time wearing shoes, like ever, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So that had to be super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
How did we even know they were his size? Like
cartoon logic.
Cartoon logic, yeah.
So Tarzan makes it on time to get on the boat with Jane. Unfortunately, Turk and Tantor get there a little too late to say their goodbyes, and we get a nice little scene from Turk turning sadness into anger and like, go on, we don't need you, get out of here, you freaking traitor, blah blah blah. Even Turk's kind of understanding, hey, I'll miss the guy too.
Yeah. Oh, it just hit me. My brain is working so slowly today. He's got Mighty Magic shoes. There's our Magisaurus reference for the episode. Go on. Okay.
Mighty Magic shoes.
Let's hope they're not sentient. I'm sorry. As you may remember from last week, I had an injury. I've been heavily medicated for a week, so my brain is not at the top right now, but... okay.
Alright, so Tarzan gets in the boat. He sees Jane and the Professor getting loaded in, and he gets loaded in himself to see Jane and the Professor being grabbed and dragged off, and the crew going after him. Tarzan tries, but because he's not used to wearing shoes, he falls and gets captured too.
Okay, so they're mighty mesh shoes.
mighty mesh shoes. And they make a point to focus in on the shoes. Him wearing the shoes so he can't get a good grip as he would with his normal bare feet.
Yeah.
So he falls, he gets captured, and then Clayton shows up. Tarzan asks for help, and Clayton repeats his line again. Have we met? And, because partially to be an a-hole, partially because, Tarzan's now wearing people clothes.
Yeah.
And Clayton, this is where we find out Clayton's plan. He's going to capture the apes and sell them. And he thanks Tarzan for helping him. And all Tarzan can do at this point is just scream in frustration. Because, yeah, he really did betray the apes in this regard. And Tantor hears it. With those big ears, he could have heard something. Tarzan's in trouble, and Tantor and Turk are going to help him. And we kind of get a role reversal between Turk and Tantor on this one. Because Turk is just, let him help himself. Maybe his new friends can help him. And Tantor straight up says, we're going to help our friend, and whether you want to or not, get over yourself. Our friend's in trouble, we need to help him.
Yeah, this is the first time in the entire movie we see Tantor taking any sort of,
Initiative,
proactive... Yeah, I mean, it's great, because it's like, the entire rest of the movie, you're like, oh, that elephant, he's useless. And then it's like, no, the second you need him, boy, does he bring it.
Yeah, he's that friend of yours that 9 times out of 10, he's just there for the ride, but that other time when you really need him to do something, he will drop everything and come to you and whatever you need done, he'll do it.
Tantor would help you move a couch. Tantor is a good friend.
Tantor will help you move a dead body.
Yeah. I don't know if Tantor's that good a friend.
You know what they say? A good friend will help you move. A great friend will help you move a dead body.
Yep.
Tantor, much like Tarzan earlier in the movie, jumps off the cliff. And much like Tarzan, his victory, his little charge call turns into a very scared whimper as he crashes into the water.
Yeah, I like the bugle call they have, though, as he starts charging. Like, he does the bugle call for charge, which is kind of interesting.
How would he know? It's a cartoon.
Yeah.
And yeah, amazingly, he doesn't break any of his legs. Like, a normal elephant jumping from that height would break all 4 legs. But it's a cartoon, so we're just going to keep on going.
Yeah.
And they dive underneath so Clayton doesn't see them, as him and the ship's crew are heading for land. And we get another modern reference where Tantor's tusk is used as a periscope, complete with submarine sounds.
Yeah, also, I think Turk's lungs get to be another secretly swole, because it's like, we don't really see Turk spend any time under the water at all, and then all of a sudden they're just submarining down to the ship, and Turk has to be holding her breath the whole time.
Well, she's not happy about it, because she doesn't get angry when
No, but she should be dead. Like, I don't know how long gorillas can stay underwater, but we've never seen Turk do anything underwater until this point.
So yeah, they're in the ship's cargo hold, all captured, all 3 of them, and everyone blames himself. Tarzan especially is blaming himself, granted justifiably so. And
I love how Tarzan reacts to being in a cage, though.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly how a gorilla would react to being caged for the first time, and most animals.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, no, I will throw myself against these bars. I will make it break. I gotta get out of here. I've gotta, and then the rest of the humans are just kind of like understanding there's nothing they can do because they've at least seen a situation like this before. They understand the context, whereas it's obvious Tarzan doesn't. He's never seen metal before probably until he meets these humans, much less an entire ship made of it.
Yeah.
So
Luckily, Tantor climbs the ship. An elephant climbs the ship and gets on there, and breaks the cage and sets them all free.
you know what, Tuesday?
Yeah.
Well, I ain't not seeing everything when I see an elephant climb.
I don't know if elephants are known for climbing, but it's a cartoon.
Yeah, they are in Disney movies. There's a lot of jokes about elephants climbing things in Disney movies, especially in the Renaissance. I can think of at least 3, I think, right now from the Renaissance.
Abu, Tantor.
I know there's another. Well, I know there was some in Dumbo. If you go before the Renaissance, there was Dumbo climbing
Maybe Lion
things.
King?
Yeah, I think we see an elephant climbing something in Lion King, but it's not a ladder. But
You get there is an elephant on top of various ostriches, so he had to climb up there some kind of way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Tantor breaks him free, and not even waiting, Tarzan just jumps off the boat and starts swimming back to shore. And meanwhile, Clayton's men just starts capturing gorillas, nets, cages, sacks, you name it. All the while, Tarzan is quickly gathering the other animals as he sheds the suit from his body. It's like almost a regression in a way, with the way he starts acting.
No, you really want to start being like, let's get down to business to defeat Clayton. I'll make an ape out of you.
In a traditional Disney musical, there would be a nice big song here.
Yeah, and you really do feel the lack of those songs, because by this point, we had been taught to expect that.
Yeah.
And so even watching it now, knowing that this is, it's not even a jukebox musical, it's like the worst, it's just the worst. But even knowing what it was going to be, I still found myself going, man, this is a place where somebody should be breaking into song.
Even like you would have a sort of a marathon song where Tarzan is singing one style of song and Clayton is singing another, a song about capturing gorillas or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Tarzan and pretty much every other animal we've seen at this point, including the baboons, they start attacking Clayton's men. Kerchak breaks free, quickly captured again, and then, I skipped ahead here. Kerchak breaks free of the original cage, and he starts attacking Clayton's men, but it's quickly tied up with whips, and Clayton is straight up going to shoot Kerchak, because he's uppity, and he has to teach the other gorillas a lesson, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, he does even have the line, like, I think that one needs to be stuffed, we're not capturing that one. He's going to be too much trouble. I want him as a trophy.
And then Tarzan and the animals attack. Which, again, with every animal we've seen so far. I do like, he doesn't even talk to a lot of them. He just passes by them, and instinctively, every animal starts following him.
Yeah, well, he is the king of the jungle in a lot of these,
Yeah.
At least the king of the apes, but, some go far enough as king of the jungle.
So, all the animals together, they help free the apes, and they lock most of the crew in the cages. And there's a nice little moment there between Kerchak and Tarzan. You came back, I came home. It's a nice little moment there.
Yeah.
Clayton shoots, but only grazes Tarzan's arm. And Kerchak jumps in to get back into the fight and is fatally wounded by Clayton. Tarzan goes to attack himself, but has to end up dodging more gunfire. So he escapes into the trees, climbing up with one arm because the other one got shot.
Yeah.
with Clayton following, which it would explain why Clayton is able to catch up with Tarzan the way he is, because he's got one bad arm because he got shot.
Yeah.
And they fight along the treetops with Tarzan getting Clayton's gun eventually. And Clayton dares him to shoot. Straight up, man, be a man, shoot me. As if he feels that Tarzan doesn't have the gumption to shoot the gun, or even the knowledge to shoot the gun. And Tarzan straight up mimics the gunfire sound again to scare Clayton. And you see the face on Clayton as he thinks he's getting shot at. There goes the bravado right there.
Yeah.
Before throwing the gun away, saying, "Not a man like you." That is very much mirroring the same scene in Hunchback.
Yeah.
With throwing down the dagger.
And also, it's kind of a very interesting juxtaposition, because we do think of Tarzan as like the manliest man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's this idea of Tarzan is like, you know, he's the perfect man. He's chiseled and he's primal and he's, you know, he's manly, you know, in that sense. And I really like that Disney was like, no, he's human. You know, that gun and that violence. Yeah, he's strong and he'll fight to protect his family. Okay, sure, but that's not the type of man you want to be, which is a great lesson that I wish more people could hear.
Yeah. But Clayton isn't done. The gun may be gone, but Clayton still has a machete, the very machete he was using to chop down trees earlier in the movie. And Tarzan tries to swing away from the machete, but Clayton starts cutting down the vines, which is a smart move when you're fighting someone who swings around vines. Cut him down. Backing Tarzan up into a tree with no options there. He starts throwing vines at Clayton and it starts tying him up. More vines. He even jumps up and brings a whole mess of vines on top of Clayton, with one of them going around his neck. Clayton tries to cut himself free, but really doesn't notice the vine getting tighter and tighter around his neck. And Tarzan tries to warn him to stop cutting, because Tarzan can see what's going on here. But Clayton doesn't listen. Clayton cuts one more vine, which allows him to fall. The vines on his neck tighten, hanging himself to death.
Yeah. And kind of a brutal, if brief, shot of Tarzan on the ground with the lightning reflecting the silhouette of the hanging body that we never see. You know, the shadow there on the back of the tree. And it is a very kind of blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah.
But
I missed it in this viewing.
Yeah, kind of gruesome there, you know, because it's you know, only a few frames, but it's there. That's what happened, you know. We do see the shadow of him dangling, but
this is another kind of throwback of the villain causing his own demise.
Yeah, which I do think are the best Disney villain deaths. I really like that as, I mean, maybe it's not falling, maybe it's other things, but I do like the idea that if the villain would have just walked away, it would have ended.
Yeah.
You know, like, you could have stopped. You could have walked away. This could have been over relatively peacefully. At least peacefully in the future. Mm. And it's that idea of like, no, I can't let this resolve peacefully. I have to be the victor. That is the downfall of most Disney villains, at least in this era of Disney. Mm. And I like it. I really do like it, kind of as a moral lesson. You know, it's that old, you know, you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword sort of idea. Mm. But it's like, you know, learn when to walk away, Disney villains.
Exactly. And that's a lesson to everybody. Learn when to walk away.
Yeah, that's probably the best lesson you could take from any Disney movie, I think, is learn when to walk away. That some things are not worth it.
Yeah. So Tarzan goes back to check on Kerchak. With his dying breath, Kerchak says he now understands that Tarzan was always part of the tribe. And he says that Tarzan's job to lead the tribe now. And he, for the first and only time, refers to Tarzan as his son, which is a nice moment. Shame he had to die to get to that realization, but, you know.
Yeah. Sorry that you had to take 2 slugs worth of buckshot to the chest to get you to that point.
Yeah.
But
I think it was the fact that he saw that Tarzan came back, knowing that his family was in trouble. He could have just left and stayed on the boat, but he came back to protect his family. That was more the moment Kerchak kind of sees that Tarzan is part of the family. He cares about the family.
and put himself in mortal danger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't just that he was there, you know, trying to protect the family. Like, he stood in front of gunfire,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in order to protect not only the family and his mom and whatever, but Kerchak as well.
Yeah.
Kerchak, who had treated him horribly his entire life,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So, I mean, that shows really real courage there.
Yeah. So the next day, no, wait. We are skipping a little bit here. So Tarzan, after Kerchak dies, he kind of does a little bit of a grunt and a chest pound, and the gorillas now follow him. He leads them away back to the nest or a new nest or something. And you know, there's a little bit of a little moment there with Jane realizing this is where Tarzan kind of belonged. He belongs part with his tribe. The next day, Tarzan and Jane have a very heartfelt goodbye, and Jane is very clearly conflicted. She loves Tarzan, but she belongs in civilization. And they're getting on the boat. They go towards the ship, and she starts putting her gloves on as the wind blows one of those gloves back to Tarzan. And there's a nice moment between the professor and Jane. You know, you love him. Go to him. And Jane straight up jumps off the boat and goes back to Tarzan, pouncing him and just straight up kissing him right there on the lips.
Which shocks Tarzan because he has no idea what's going on there. I do not think that kissing among humans was part of any of his lessons.
Proposing was, as we saw earlier in the movie.
Or at least giving flowers. But yeah, the down on one knee was probably meant to look like a proposal.
Yeah, and Jane kind of composed herself because they're like, you know, compose yourself, woman. Don't just jump and kiss the man. And this Tarzan straight up kisses her back. And then they realize they have an audience that just saw them make out. Yeah, there's a thing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and it's in this moment that the professor realizes, why not? I'll stay too. What am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, even telling the ship's captain, tell them you never found us. People get lost in the jungle all the time. He jumps off the boat, and Jane repeats the phrase that Tarzan taught her, that she will stay with Tarzan. And the entire tribe cheers that Jane is going to stay. And we have our another little one more reprise of Two Worlds with Tarzan and Jane now together. They're on the vines. Jane is now in a jungle girl costume, from the prim and proper outfit she was wearing most of the movie to a short skirt and a crop top, because jungle, I guess.
And also to mimic the Weissmuller films. You know, that is absolutely what Jane wore in the later movies.
So Tarzan, Jane, Professor, and Turk swinging on vines, surfing on tree branches. And we get one last Tarzan yell before the title shows up one more time and we end the movie. So, honestly, rewatching this, I have new appreciation for the movie. I don't love this movie, but I no longer hate this movie.
Yeah, okay, so we talked about just how bad a movie Hercules was. Just as a movie, it did not come together. I think that Tarzan is a better movie than Hercules,
Hmm.
but I think it has a worse soundtrack than Hercules.
Yeah. I
I
think
the desire, and it was Kevin Lima, who was one of the creators, directors, whatever, on this one. The reason that it's montage the movie, which we didn't really talk about necessarily earlier, the reason it's done like that is because Kevin Lima said something about I had this idea of like half naked Tarzan on a branch, and then he burst into song and I couldn't stop laughing. And I think it's that idea of like Tarzan is manly man. Manly man no sing. It's that idea, I think, of Tarzan in the popular consciousness that they couldn't get away from, or at least that director could not get away from. Um, and so they decided to go with nobody in the movie sings really, and we're going to have Phil Collins just sing over it. And that decision, I think, is the sole reason that this tanked.
yeah, and which is kind of, you say that, and which is kind of in a way ironic because they actually made this into a musical back in '06. This was on Broadway, so Tarzan was singing in this movie, or in the stage production of this.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't know how that was as a production because I've never really heard it. I mean, I know it exists, but I've never really heard anything they wrote for that. But I think that there's just no love for this movie because of that. But I think any time that Phil Collins starts singing, I think if you mute it, you will enjoy this movie better.
Maybe if you play the instrumental of the songs would work better.
Yeah, I don't know, but the thing is that the story is pretty good. I like what they've done to bring the book into the modern age. And I know that some people are going to want to say, like, oh, yeah, it's a movie set in Africa and it's only got white people. Trust me, you do not want them to bring in the natives like they were in the book. Okay.
Or even in some of the films.
Or even in some of the films. This Tarzan as a series has a very bad reputation for being able to positively portray Africans. Okay, it does not work. So I think Disney went the better route there and minimized the human characters at all.
So I will say this is a good movie, soundtrack notwithstanding. So yeah, does this movie hold up? I think so. Again, I went into this movie generally as a person that did not like this movie, but now I appreciate this movie. So
I was dreading this movie. When it came time for me to do the rewatch, I was kind of like, could I maybe get something to drink? Like,
again, I
what
felt
if
the same
I
way. I did not like
through?
this movie originally, but again, rewatching it, I can see where the people can like this movie. I can see the good in this movie.
Yeah, I really loved the romance. I think it's one of the better done romances in Disney. I think that the way it progresses is very natural and very realistic. I think that the ending feels earned. I think the villain is a little weak. They could have done a little more to flesh out his character. He is primarily motivated by greed, but then again, so was the villain of Pocahontas, and that worked out a little better. We remember that villain a little better. Because he had a personality. There's something more to him. He had an adorable dog,
Yeah.
But I think that Brian Blessed was completely wasted in the role, even though I love him. And bravo to him for doing the Tarzan yell, because he nailed that part. The cast, I really like the cast. There's some people that I really love. I'm a huge fan of Lance Henriksen, who played Kerchak. He is, once again, another one of those character actors that is in everything. He is Bishop in Alien, okay? He is one of the few people to have ever been in both Alien and Predator as franchises. Okay, he was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He's, he was who the Terminator was written for. They didn't want Arnold Schwarzenegger. They wanted Lance Henriksen, okay? This guy is amazing, and I love him, and I love that he's in this. But, Glenn Close nails it as the mother. It's fun to hear Nigel Hawthorne back again. That was, unfortunately, his final acting role before his death. Rosie O'Donnell as the comic relief is kind of perfect for this movie. She's not annoying, to me at least. I mean, she's been in other parts where she's a little more Rosie O'Donnell, and that can get a little much sometimes. Mm-hmm. But, if we're going to stunt cast a comedian, I mean, you can't do much better. I mean, not everybody's going to be Robin Williams, okay? That was lightning in a bottle. But Rosie O'Donnell is a perfectly fine actress. I like her as an actress. She approached this role as an actress, which I appreciate. Minnie Driver is great in everything she does. Tony Goldwyn, again, one of those very versatile actors who can do almost anything, does a fine job here as Tarzan. I love him switching between the fluent English, quote-unquote, of talking to the gorillas and the kind of more stunted, I am just learning this language, English, that he uses with the humans. Both are equally believable. There's so much I want to love about this movie, and then Phil Collins has to shove his Phil Collins-ness right in it, and it just...
Even Wayne Knight does a great job in this movie.
Oh, yeah, well, Wayne Knight is great in every... I love Wayne Knight. He's fun whenever he shows up. So, yeah. Just, I don't know. It's so weird. It's like that one choice.
Yeah.
That one choice, really, because the humor lands, the story is fine, the animation is a little weak. That's the other weak part to me. This is not a beautiful movie. There are beautiful moments in this movie, but it really feels like the animation team phoned this one in.
And, we might have another discussion like this when we get to Emperor's New Groove, talking how about they got Sting to do the music.
Yeah, but I'll have to rewatch that and see how it hits me, because it's been a while since I've seen that one as well. But watching this again, I like this so much more than I liked it when I originally saw it.
Me too. And it's just...
Yeah, there's something here. And I like almost everything about it, with the exception of kind of janky animation in parts, and the music. And the music's always what you want from... I mean, those are the two big things. You think of Disney, you're going to think animation, you're going to think music. And it kind of failed on both parts, despite being a really valiant attempt at a good movie. So I don't know.
And they did a lot with the character of Tarzan. There was the Legend of Tarzan TV series in 2001. Only lasted one season, unfortunately, before getting canceled. But they did get as far as 3 episodes for season 2, which they edited together to form the direct-to-video movie Tarzan and Jane. And, of course, we got Tarzan 2 in 2005, which pretty much took place during the entire Son of Man song. Another mid-quote.
Yeah. Very, very weird mid-song movie, sequel there, yeah. There's a bit from the Washington Post that I heard, that I read, where they put this somewhere between Aladdin, Lion King, Little Mermaid up there at the top, but then above Hercules and Pocahontas. They didn't mention where in that Mulan fell. But yeah, I kind of think that this and Mulan are like the middle children of the Disney Renaissance.
They're kind of forgotten in a way.
Yeah, there are good movies there. There are just kind of minor things that screwed it up. I wouldn't put Tarzan above, say, I mean, if we're going to talk about, like, Disney Renaissance movies that don't get their due, definitely Hunchback is above all of them.
Yes.
Because Hunchback was a flawless movie with the exception of the gargoyles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, that is the only little, weird Achilles heel for that movie. Is like if you could take the gargoyles out of that movie, I think that would be a perfect Disney film. But, not up there with that, but like, you can cut out the problematic stuff a little easier in this than you even can in Mulan. And I love Mulan. I mean, we've already established that. I love Mulan. It's great, but all you have to do is hit the mute button anytime music starts, and this becomes a much better movie.
Would you, if they could get in the film rights back with the Burroughs estate, would you want them to do another live action attempt with this one? Disney doing a live action remake of Tarzan.
Brendan Fraser is too old for the role now. I'm not even kidding. The reason he landed George of the Jungle was because he had been auditioning for this movie. Because this movie was already kind of in early production stages. And he desperately wanted the part of the animated Tarzan. And they were like, well, no, but we've got this goofy Tarzan ripoff that you would be perfect for. And he was. Because Brendan Fraser is an excellent, and I'm not saying he's not a good dramatic actor, but he really excels in comedy. And so I do think that George of the Jungle was a better fit for him, even though I absolutely love him and I would watch him in anything.
Have you seen Doom Patrol?
Yes, not all of it, but I have seen some of it. My annoyance with that is that they have reduced him to a voice actor in that. Because of the way the character is, it's really just his voice. You see him a little bit in the first episode, and then after that, he literally phones it in at that point, as a voice actor. And I really like Brendan Fraser as an actor, and he's got a very expressive face, and I love watching him act. So that I kind of, and the same thing with Alan Tudyk in that. It's like you've got Alan Tudyk, and you've basically, been like, oh, let's keep him off screen for as much time as possible. So I don't know. It annoys me, put good looking men back on screen, So
I mean, in terms of everything else with this movie, in terms of the parks, Disneyland in California has Tarzan's Treehouse, which is still there today. It's a refurb of the old Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, but it's still Tarzan's Treehouse to this day. And they don't do much with it. I mean, there's a couple of static statues of the characters in the treehouse, but for the most part, you're just walking through a treehouse.
Yeah.
Animal Kingdom is
honestly,
mostly where it's at. Go ahead.
Honestly, the treehouse. It's interesting that that's where they got it from, in the parks, because it's very obviously the inspiration in the animation.
Yeah.
Once again, the idea of Tarzan in a treehouse was a much later idea in the movies. That's really more from the movies than from Burroughs himself, because it really does. I think in the original book it was like they had built a cabin or something. But I am going to say one joke that we kind of missed because we were kind of rushing toward the end there, but my favorite joke in the movie, and once again, this is for people who know about the history of Tarzan, is that when Tarzan decides to leave on the boat with them, Jane is so happy because she says, everyone's going to want to meet you. There's, the queens and kings are going to want to meet you, scientists are going to want to meet you, and then she says, oh, Kipling will love you. That is, of course, Rudyard Kipling, who wrote the Jungle Book. The interesting thing is that at the time of its release, a lot of people said, oh, Burroughs, you wrote basically Jungle Book, but you only focused on the Mowgli story. That was what they said. And Burroughs said, no, my only inspiration was Roman myth. It's Romulus and Remus being raised by the wolf, but I just changed out apes for wolves. And everybody's all like, mm-hmm. And then finally somebody asked Rudyard Kipling what he thought about it, and he basically said something like, oh yeah, he totally stole that, but he seemed like he enjoyed himself. So I love the idea that Jane's first thought is Rudyard Kipling is going to want to meet you, because it's such a lovely little wink and a nod to Kipling basically being like, hope you enjoyed stealing my story there, man, So I loved that. I laughed so hard when I came across that in the rewatch.
Yeah, to go back to the park thing, Animal Kingdom in Florida had a show called Tarzan Rocks, which was rock versions of the songs from the movie, which probably made them sound better. I don't know.
But they're already kind of rock songs. I mean, yeah, they're like adult contemporary rock songs, but
But yeah, as far as I'm aware, Tarzan, Jane, and Turk are still meetable in Animal Kingdom, which, if you're going to have Tarzan in any of the parks, Animal Kingdom seems like the best bet.
Yeah, I can't really, I don't know, I think if I was just walking around Magic Kingdom or Epcot or something, and Tarzan just like came wandering by.
You're in the Africa Pavilion. Here's Tarzan.
Yeah, that would seem a little strange. So yeah, Animal Kingdom. If you're gonna have them around, and I'm not even saying don't, because I do think they're good characters. But it's kind of a very one note thing.
So is that all we can say? Is there anything else you want to say?
I think that the finale, if you want to call it that, of the Renaissance doesn't get as much credit as it should, but I do understand why at the time, and honestly why even still, this did not resonate with the Disney Renaissance generation. And yes, Disney does change to younger and new audiences. I mean, our parents have a version of Disney that we do not resonate as strongly with.
Yeah.
Children who came after us, our friends' kids and stuff like that, they're all going around singing Frozen, and I'm not saying we're not, but it resonates a little bit more with them than it does, or differently with them than it does with us, just because of the age difference. And that is, at one point, the magic of Disney, but also kind of the slight wistful sadness of Disney, is that there's always going to be a Disney that's your Disney, that it was the Disney of your time, and it's never going to be the Disney again. It wasn't Disney before you. It's not going to be Disney after you. You might keep up with Disney after you, but there's always a version of Disney that is kind of solely to your age group and your contemporary culture, that is this kind of wistful past thing. And it's beautiful in its sadness. And I don't know about you, but I think what I've learned is that, yeah, the magic is still there, at least in the Disney Renaissance. We'll wait and see, for other things. But for the most part, Hercules, I'm not looking at you, but for the most part, I have enjoyed this process, and it's very different than what I thought it was going to be when we started. I immediately thought, like, yeah, this is going to be great. All of this is going to be wonderful. I'm going to feel exactly like I felt when I was 10 years old. And no, not really. Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, I am still 10, 11 years old when I watch those. Absolutely, that is the perfect nostalgia. But even then, you've got that adult sensibility creeping in. Ariel, you're only 16. You haven't even officially met this man. Belle, Beast, maybe don't don't keep a woman in captivity as a way to make her fall in love with you. I mean, Stockholm Syndrome aside, which I do not think it really is, not a great meet cute there, like mistakes were made on the Beast's part there.
That's a different movie coming on Disney Plus later in the month.
Yeah, true. But anyway, it's different. At least it was for me. But I'm not saying that it's not still magical. It's just a different sort of magical.
And that's kind of what we were looking forward to in this thing. Well, at least for me, when I came up with this idea, is to, these movies are still good, but do you still feel the magic when you watch them? And in some of these we do, and in some of these we don't, and that's okay.
But the ones that we didn't feel the magic with, we didn't feel the magic when they first came out either.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only one I would even say is different would be Tarzan. Right.
Yeah, Tarzan absolutely gains by a rewatch. Yeah. I think it is a much more, I'm not going to say adult film, but it's, if you can look past the kind of, minor
Phil Collins
there, if you can get past Phil Collins, then you will find that there's kind of a gem there, hidden behind adult contemporary pop music. I think Pocahontas really suffered. I think Hercules stayed about the same. I don't think either of us liked it when it came out. We didn't like it when we rewatched it. Pocahontas, I think, diminished in our view a little bit.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Hunchback only gained.
Yeah.
I think now, as adults, our generation is finally seeing what an absolute treasure that one is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's different, but it's still good. Different isn't always bad. Different can just be different.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the different. If I get a chance to go back to a Disney park at my age, it's going to be different than the last time I went when I was 12 or whatever. But I still think I'd enjoy myself. I still think it would be magical. I'm looking at friends' reactions to being able to get on, Rise of the Resistance and stuff like that. And
I will say this. I went to a Disney park for the very first time 2 years ago, and the magic was there for me.
That's great. I mean, I do also know some people that were only ever able to make it in adulthood. My kind of time being able to make it really kind of came from tragic circumstances more often. But, I didn't grow up with money,
Yeah.
And geographically, if I had lived in, Illinois at the time, we would not have been able to make it to Florida. We were only able to make it to Florida because, it's like, okay, it's maybe 8 hours by car or something like that. And, okay, it's not a fun drive, but you can make it. It wouldn't be like, the 2 or 3 days or the plane tickets, like it would be coming from where you are. So I think, growing up in southern Georgia helped me make it to a Disney park at but I've never gotten to go to many theme parks. I've never been to Universal. There's a Six Flags in Atlanta, and so I got to go once on a school trip, but that's kind of it, and it was really mostly because the school kind of partially paid the way. There's just, I get it that that's not always available to everybody. But that being said, a lot of people decry the adult Disney fan, and I think that's what we were. It's more acceptable to be an adult Disney fan now because our generation has absolutely said we will not stand for that.
Yeah.
But we still get a thing. The reason that our opening kind of identifies us as childless millennial adults is because of the childless millennial at Disney meme. You know, we wanted to fight back against that. Like, Disney is ours too. You know, we get to have some part of Disney. It's not the same part of Disney that your kids have, certainly. But we were Disney kids, and in a lot of ways we're still Disney kids. And we get to have a piece of that. We're willing to share, but we want our piece of that. So, yeah. This has been a great experience, and I can't wait to see what we get into once we're done talking about the Renaissance. But we're not going to be done talking about the Renaissance until...
Next week, we wrap up our look at the Disney Renaissance. We look back at all 9 films that we reviewed so far. We are going to go as far as we can into the more of the backstage stuff that we haven't gotten to. But we only glanced at it at this, especially in this episode. But we're going to go through it all. The backstage stuff, the movies, maybe even that era, that pop culture time with the Disney Renaissance. We're going to try to hit as much of it as we can in one episode. So we are just, I guess we can call next week the grand finale of this whole run with the Disney Renaissance. Season 1 finale? Question mark?
Yeah, I don't know what you want to call it, but at least our Disney Renaissance rewatch. We're gonna watch Waking Sleeping Beauty, which is a documentary about the Disney Renaissance from archival footage of the time, how they revitalized the studio. And got Little Mermaid going, and, you know, into Beauty and the Beast and all that kind of stuff. We won't really probably be talking about anything as in terms of plot. We will tell you interesting things from that. It is a good documentary that if you've got Disney Plus, you know, watch it with us.
The first documentary we reviewed on this show.
Yeah, and again, probably we won't really so much review it as like we have been with the films. We're not going to probably talk about too much plot or anything, but we really want to get into the nitty-gritty of the studio of how did Disney go from that thing from our parents' generation that sometimes we watched to the center of our childhood lives.
Yeah.
Which it absolutely was. So, you know, we might get into some of the other stuff. We're primarily going to focus on the Renaissance films, but we might talk about what was going on at the television animation and stuff, because that whole time was a renaissance for Disney, not just in the films, but this is when most of the cartoons from our childhood that are related to Disney came out.
Yeah.
Disney Afternoon came out during this, you know, 10-year span that we're covering and
Not
all that.
Even that, though, we also had the Disney too. We had, you know, like Goofy movie.
Yeah, and Disney Channel premiering at roughly this time. This would have been the start of cable as an entity, and Disney, you know, getting a foray into its own channel. I mean, there is a lot to talk about here, and I think we're just going to do a behind the scenes, what was going on with Disney during that decade that took them from, you know, they made some animation back in the day and they run a good theme park, to the mouse owns everything. Because that is the decade in which that started. I mean, you know.
Like I said, they got Miramax, and then, you know, by the time we get to the 2000s or the mid 2000s, you know, they start getting. They buy out Pixar, they buy out Marvel, they buy out Lucasfilm. They just bought Fox. And
well, you know what they say. If you give a mouse a piece of Miramax, they're gonna want a glass of Pixar. All right, we'll get into that next week. Thanks.
I'll get into that next week. Yeah, thanks for sticking with us. So we're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff, including Waking Sleeping Beauty, among other things. So again, check back with us next week. We will see you then. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Rewatching the Magic. We invite you to keep the magic going by joining the conversation online. Find us on Facebook at Rewatching the Magic, on Twitter at Rewatch the Magic, and of course, find all new episodes at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com. Until next time, remember, the magic is for everyone. It only stops if you let it.